Never before have we had greater face a complex, rapidly changing world. Think of it a moment.
It is a world in which supersonic speeds are commonplace. It is a world that has seen the coming of the atomic bomb. It has seen the rise of the total state, the dictator, and the mass man. It is a world of new sensations, new excitements, new distractions.
So much to be learned by so many in so little time.
And I suppose you're here with no agenda, as per usual?
On the contrary, I'm here for comics.
How's your comic book collection, Brody?
Oh, it's going good, but I've been...
Do they do the other team members get like first, like, what am I trying to say here? Because like you would introduce it and be like, hey, this is a new character that we're introducing, whether it's like Spider Boy or whatever the hell it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then that you're basically going like, okay, they're in this, like, they're in the MC, or not the MCU, but the Marvel 616 now. Like, would that sort of initial reveal meeting, would that allow the other team members at Marvel to be like, oh, that's cool, could I use them? Like, is that how it goes? Or is it basically just like, they're here and then you guys will all start, or not you guys, but like, cause like RIPPA or Marvel or whatever, like you all work together on it from there. You know what I mean?
So I that probably varies between publishers. I would imagine that it looks something like writer presents presents a pitch, right? And if that pitch is accepted by whoever the editor-in-chief is, then from there, other writers who are maybe a part of that conversation might go, hey, yeah, I actually like that. Could I do this with them over here? And then depending on, I guess, the leniency or level of kind of creative
freedom, or like the
liberalism that you have to work with there, you might have, the creator go, no, I'd rather not, at least maybe not right now. Or maybe they go, yeah, sure, I'd love that. I think it's really a case-by-case basis. But generally speaking, and I know at Marvel and DC, they're actually very stringent about who is allowed to be in what book. That's a lot of times they'll be like, oh, you can't even mention some other character. It's like, dude, you all need to calm down. They do all exist in the same universe, right? A name drop does not kill you.
Like everybody already knows they're here. Like, we don't need to pretend like you're not helping anybody.
Mm-hmm. And so, say for instance, if we have a pitch meeting and Chuck Dixon says, hey, Joe Bennett and I cooked up yet another banger of a character we think the fans are going to love, just like they loved Horseman, just like we think they're going to love Zaylan. Like, here's this other dude or dudette, and this is what our plans are for this. And since it's Chuck and Joe, if Chuck and Joe are hyped about doing a thing, like unless in the 1 in a million chance they come up with something that just is not going to be presently viable or feasible in the context of where we're at in our level of build out of our world, right? Beyond that, it's like, cool, let them do their thing, let them cook, right? And then at that point, like, other writers could say, hey, could I use that, things like that. There's probably some sort of an agreement there where it's like the writer, Chuck, could say, I kind of want to be the person to write this character right now. Let's leave it over here. And then maybe down the road, if you want to have a cameo that works, because that's also a danger too, right? Where you end up with, Where you end up, yeah, because once you start doing cameos, then you have to take into account, okay, does it actually make sense for this person to be here timeline-wise?
I was
starts getting messy.
That makes sense when we talk like Marvel and DC, but my mind was still on like RIPPAVERSE, and I'm like, you guys aren't that far along. We don't have to worry
we're not
that hard yet. But no,
what we're trying to do
still
though
makes
is like,
sense. Yeah,
we're trying to keep track of it at the ground level right now.
Right.
That way we don't reach that point where we're making things too many, and
just,
also
like,
sometimes
runs away from you.
Yeah, and sometimes you just have too many cooks in the kitchen. Sometimes you could have something where it feels like, why are all of these people suddenly here in this book? Then you have the issue of now it doesn't actually feel like the titular character's book anymore because you have all these other people guesting, and it's like, all right, so who's the main character of this book? Like, there's too many people, too many cooks in the kitchen.
Spider-Man? Oh, no, it's going to be Spider-Girl 9 right? and Multiverse Spider.
But as a comic book fan, you and I are very uniquely, familiar with this issue where sometimes you'll open a comic book and it's not a team book. It's just a solo character book. And all of a sudden you got everybody and their brother's goldfish in the book. And you're like, why so many people? Like, we don't need like half of these people right here. And most they're contributing nothing other than it's like, hey, do you remember this character?
Exactly. Or like,
yeah,
look,
I do.
Character.
Why the F are they here?
Right. And then it's just like, I mean, for a what do you call it? Like a practical example, look at half the Flash family. Okay, not even half of it. Wallace and Avery.
I was gonna say like half is being, a little generous there. Yeah, like. Half the time, it's like they're there just like, oh, you're just trying to remind people that they still exist.
That is literally it.
We haven't forgotten because we still think they're useless.
Because we're still annoyed by them. We still, it's like, oh, that's right. Like I have to deal with that. I forgot about it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like if you haven't driven a car in a while, and then you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go take like the truck or whatever, and you get in the truck and you're like, oh, that's right. It like the clutch gets sticky if you try to go into second. Dang it. Like I gotta go with that. That sucks. Like, yeah, no, I know we know exactly the feeling.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, you have to be careful when it comes to cameos, especially in an expanding comic book universe, which is what we're trying to do, because you do want to be careful that you start to limit yourself with your timeline and what you can do when you start having people show up in all these different places, and you're like, maybe you have a really banger of an idea for a story, and you're like, it would fit perfectly right here in the timeline, right? And somebody in editorial who's actually doing the job in editorial goes, yeah, you're right, except they're actually over here at that point, unfortunately, because somebody decided to just have them show up for 3 panels and they contributed nothing.
Well, that's what what you would call it. A lot of like the DC All In stuff has been doing that. They're like, their big thing was Justice League Unlimited. Here's the Watchtower. We're gonna show it off. Here's all the
which is so pages. Far just felt like, hey, do you remember all these characters? We remember all these characters.
Well, it's that. That's the main book, but then you go into things like Aquaman or Flash or even Superman, and you get a lot of the first 1 or 2 all-in issues. You get a panel or 2 where like Bruce or Arthur goes to the Justice League Tower, and it gives you that cameo, like, remember everybody? And then you get that box. It's like, this story takes place before Justice League Unlimited 1. And I'm like, what? Did nobody talk? Like, you couldn't just delay Justice League 1 by a month? That, like, for example, we're this month, like, right now, we are in these last 2 weeks, crazy slow. Like, there's...
Yeah. Well, last week, remember, I didn't have any books at all. That was part of the reason why I didn't do the show, because I had 0 new books. My shop. So there were 2 books that came out that I didn't get till this week, because not only did my shop not get them till this week, like, they were on the new this week rack. Previews World didn't even have them on for last week. And so that's what threw me off. I was like, these are like meh?
Honestly, it all links back to Spencer and Andrew's mystery truck crash. Like, it's still
that has to be
all of this. Even though Diamond is now dead, it is still haunting us.
What it was is somebody tried to deliberately crash that truck because they were absolutely desperate for the next issue of Mid-K's X-Men.
Of Mid-K's X-Men, and that and Exceptional. They just needed to see what Kitty Pryde was going to get up to. That didn't even feel fun to make fun of anymore. Like, that joke was coming out, and it just felt Nah, like it didn't even feel good here.
Hey.
Yeah,
but not as much as I hate the writer of that book.
It's so we have one more issue to see what happens, and or theoretically we have one more issue. I know, like, what is it? Like 2 more until the arc is done, which is what we'll close out.
Is it 2 more?
I think it's like 1 or 2 more. I don't think it's the next issue. So that means like I
Dude,
know you and I we're checked out.
I already started putting together a list of books that I'm like ready to drop. Like Flash is on that list. After the last 2 issues were just like the arc so far in itself has just been meh, but the last 2 issues themselves have just been stinkers, and I'm just like, you know what? I've got plenty of Flash
Zoomer
right
Eclipso. Everybody loves Zoomer Eclipso.
I'm good without Gen Z Calypso or Eclipso, and I'll just read these. I have Flash at home, unironically. Okay. So
that's good Flash at home.
That's what I said unironic. Like, I've got these. Shoot, I'll go back and reread the New 52 run on the damn book. Honestly, after this week's issue of Batman, I'm probably dropping that because I'm
done with Batman, man.
Like, dude, I'll give it this. The plane crash scene was cool.
Oh, yep.
That was a cool scene, and we'll get into that. That was a cool scene, but beyond that, I'm just like, this. I don't know. I just felt like nothing really happened, and not every single arc needs to be some city-destroying thing or completely upending everything. But the thing is, and this is the difference between an arc like this and something like what Tynion did when he first jumped on me, took over for freaking King.
King.
He started it with a pretty ground level, simple detective story. He involved Deathstroke. There were some badass fights there.
That's right. The Deathstroke
he wound up.
one. Yeah.
I think it was at the end of that arc or during that arc where he introduced Ghost.
That's
Hunter, or was it too?
No, there's. I think his name is just Ghost.
Was it just Ghost? Okay, I couldn't remember. I just remember he had a cool design.
No, he was awesome. Because there's him, and then there's Clown Hunter, who was that like.
That's right. I was mixing the 2 names up.
He's like the Joker type, or not Joker, but like he's got like the Mohawk helmet.
Yeah.
And They don't really use him anymore because that was kind of a.
I think that was just a Tynion creation. They haven't really touched any of his stuff afterwards.
It's a Tynion
after
creation,
he left.
But it's also like, what do you do? You can't make somebody like you can't put somebody on Bruce's team who's like, oh yeah, I hear all your arguments, but I'm still gonna like bash the skulls in of everybody, like bloodily kill everybody we come. There's just no.
As far as you get like one of those, and only in very rare instances. Like you already have Jason Todd. Okay?
Exactly.
I don't need a teenage clown Mohawk version of Jason Todd who's not as cool.
Who's not as cool and is like somehow even edgier.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
He was an interesting character insofar as what Tynion was presenting, but Tynion's also an extremely talented writer, and I was curious to see where he ultimately would go with it. But he's no longer over at DC. He's no longer writing Batman, so it's like, all right, well, I don't really trust necessarily anybody else to pick up his characters and do anything decent with them. But it's just unfortunate right now that we're not getting anything particularly cool out of Batman. Like that first issue of the arc was an interesting setup and an interesting premise. I was curious to know where they were going to go with it, but we
both were. Yeah, we were both kind of
like, ooh, Chip didn't really go anywhere with it, and he gave up the mystery so quickly too, and it was just like, like you could have held on to that for like 3 more issues.
Well, that's like what I wanted to like emphasize is that you were saying, nothing happens in this arc, and nothing it doesn't always have to be world shattering, and that's true, and I agree with you. And like you said, you just recap Tinian's, and the thing is though, like I want to emphasize to the folks who are watching, and we'll say hi in a second, but like to emphasize to the folks who are watching who may not have read the book, like when we say nothing happens, we literally mean if you cut out the entire events, like all of this arc. And you just went from that last like all-in issue to the next issue, you would miss nothing. Like no development, no additions to anything. Literally just a fart of a story.
This also brings into context what we were just talking about a moment ago when it comes to having characters in multiple books at the same time, because I don't know how this is supposed to fit in and relate with everything that Bruce is doing with Justice League right now. He's been involved in all of the issues so far with Justice League, and so far Justice League Unlimited has taken place over a very short period of time, so I have no idea when we are when it comes to the current DC timeline. And so that's annoying as well. But on top of that, I don't know, man, the book had, like I said, it had the cool plane crash scene where I was like, all right, that was actually cool. Yeah. And, I wanted a really badass knockdown drag out fight between Bruce and KG Beast. I know. And they gave us 3 panels. And I'm like, okay, yeah, Bruce is going to win ultimately, but I don't know. They stretch it out more, make it badass.
The way I guess I could frame it is that the what is it? It doesn't do how do I put this? Okay, so for example, what do I want to do? So for example, you're talking about that drag down fight, right? We all expected that to happen. Even if you've never read a Batman comic before, good guy eventually will win out in the end. And then, they do have that setup, like you said, they're the 3 panels and that 1-page shot where they're dragged down, beating each other. And then there's that moment where Bruce has won and he has this speech of we've seen it a lot. It was in No Way Home, but the hero is beating on the villain and they're clearly done, but their rage is getting the most of them. And then, they have to hold back before they go too far.
And there was only 1 panel of that,
That's
too.
That's exactly what I was getting at. It's yeah, that's what's
so what, did you punch him 1 extra time?
Well, it's I know what you're trying to tell me, Chip, but you're not executing it right. You're kind of just going, yeah, that's what happens because it happens in a story. It's yeah, I know what we're doing here, but the way you've done it is very, very terrible.
This is what's baffling, because I know that Chip Zdarsky is a good writer.
Me too.
So that's annoying on the one hand. On the other hand, what's baffling about this arc is that there are 2 sides to this. It feels super rushed, and at the same time, it feels like nothing happens. Those feel like they're diametrically opposed ideas, but that's kind of what happened.
Well, because normally we expect a rushed arc in a book to, that's normally used to really retcon something or to wrap things up. So you get generally, big changes or status quo shifts, with really rushed stories. Because a lot of times we go that was really bad. We know that, they had to wrap this up for Final Crisis. We get that. But then there's the whole thing where you rushed it for no reason. You didn't get to anything. Yeah. There's nothing set up.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not like you were trying to really rush through the boring parts to get to the really action-packed part. The whole thing was the boring part.
The whole thing was the boring part. There's nothing, and it's not like they were building towards an event or there's a big thing happening next month, right? There's no crisis. So you guys could have let this breathe. There was no reason to rush this in. What has it been? 3 or 4 issues? And then that builds onto the problem of this was the first issue since the first one that had any Jimenez art. And it's only a couple pages. The rest of it is by Tony Daniel, who I like Tony Daniel.
Who's great, but it was
but you're not Jimenez. Exactly.
I was stoked for this arc. I was stoked for this run because Torres Jimenez is my guy, right?
He's so good.
It's him and Dan Mora right now at DC, battling for who's the best DC artist right now. And it's just give one of them half of the books and give the other half of the books. There are some other really good artists over at DC right now. What's his name that's on Aquaman
go do the annuals. Right? John Timms, is that who it is?
Timms. Right? Yeah, Timms is on Aquaman. Timms is fantastic.
I really like Timms.
But he also is in that same kind of house style, current house style, with the way that he draws. And so that's kind of what I'm really digging right now in 2024, 2025 comic books is that current house style. Your Dan Mora, your Chichetto,
it's a very detailed but clean detailed house style.
It's clean detailed. It's clean detailed, but it's also got this. it's got this like, this is probably what I love most about it. It has this almost like fun cartoonish style to it that reminds me a lot of like the Diniverse, the Timverse.
Yeah. Oh, especially from Mora's art. Like the
right?
He has that very like cut. Like he has the very strong lines in his art where you're like, oh yeah, I could see. I get the same like evocations of the animated series like Superman or Batman whenever I'm reading his stuff.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I don't know, man. I was really bummed with. I was really bummed with this Batman.
We will let's get into it, but first, before we get into it, let's just say a quick hello to everybody who has joined us so far. We have Frickin' Punk saying, "Hey chat, Wolfman and Spencer, what's up, Punk?" Says Red Daredevil 11 and Witchblade number 7 today, and I enjoyed them. Wait, Witchblade number 7? You didn't get that yet.
Witchblade 7 has
been. Or was that the old one?
Yeah, that came out a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, okay. I was just like, wait, you haven't talked about a Witchblade in a while, and then I was like, oh no, is this another one of those truck?
No, but I did get
issues?
my backer. I did get my backer kit email from the
your email.
the Kickstarter for the fourth one of these, the hardcover omnibus
that you guys all backed after we shared it with you last show, right? I know you guys
hope so.
did.
I've got the spot foil Michael Turner Witchblade number 7 variant in there, which is cool because it's like a sketch cover and they're doing a spot foil on it. So I'm excited to get that.
Oh man, when you said like when you were starting, oh, I already got my backer email. At first, I thought you were gonna be like, I already got my like backer rewards, and I was like, how did they print that so fast? It's been like a week.
Well, they're in the printing phase like right now. That's why I sent out the emails.
They are.
This week. Yeah, like they're.
Are they doing like you guys do, where like they had a set amount they were already going to do?
Well, what it was, I think, was that. So what we tend to do, and I think what they did here is that they completed the thing. They did all the pre-press stuff for it,
right?
And then what they did was like do the Kickstarter crowdfund to see like, all right, now what's our demand? And so let's say our demand is I don't remember how many copies were. Let's say it was 5,000 copies, right?
Yeah.
Which is a lot of books.
Of course,
for something that's not, shipping to shops, right? On mass. So let's say their demand was 5,000 books, so they're going to print 5,000 plus X, right?
Yes.
To account for overstock, they will add those on retroactively to later campaigns down the road as add-ons, so they can be like, hey, did you want to catch up on this?
Yeah.
You can catch up on this one. They'll sell it for like $5 more to put it as an add-on. They'll continue to make profit off of that. It's a smart system and way to do that.
Yeah.
And then they'll send some to shops as well. I have seen some end up at my LCS.
Wow.
But those are like much lower in quantity. They limit those quantities because they do want to use a lot of them for like their future campaigns and whatnot. So, but they'll do that, and then they'll print that ultimate final number.
Interesting. Okay, I'm still just the whole crowdfunding, all of that business is still fascinating to me because even like how many years in I am covering all this stuff or talking to like you in the industry, like everything you think gets upended, and it's always in in the strangest ways, but then they make sense. So it's always just like,
I've learned so much about the back end and inside baseball of this industry just in the last couple of years, man. It's
like whenever we're talking and you're like, oh yeah, this is how it happened. Like you tell me a publisher thing, I'm always like enthralled because I'm just like, really? Like everything I know is a lie.
It's true. Well, it's because everything that the mainstream kind of presents to you on the public side is a lie. Or like very carefully hidden truths.
Very like number fudged truth.
Yeah.
Always look at the exact wording when people are promoting things. Sort of like, we're not a video game podcast, but the one that made me really laugh recently was the Dragon Age the Veilguard statement. When EA came out and they were like, yeah, it underperformed. It was only engaged by 1.5 million players. I was like, wait a minute. All these headlines are saying
very
yes, exactly. And I was like,
very specific wording. You know what? Engagement. Here's the thing. You know what? All right. So I'm a social media manager. Engagement can count as so much as like when you're scrolling through your timeline, if you pause on a post, you didn't even hit like, you didn't even comment, that was engagement because that counts as a view. That's engagement.
as soon as it
that
hits
could then count as them opening up the Steam or PlayStation Store page.
Right. Exactly. Well,
they didn't even spend money.
They didn't even, because the other thing, like, I remembered, and I wrote this in the Bounding article, is, like, they had a demo up for the game. Like, the game's not available on Game Pass or anything like that. So, like, nobody was playing a free full copy of the game. So if you're counting engagement numbers, you're going for people who just even tried the demo. And that is exceptionally bad, man. Like, do you know how many people have watched the, like, Snow White trailer? Like, 4 billion. That amount of people are not going to go watch it. Like, that is not a good metric to, like, look at and go, yeah, we've got success.
That's why social media is actually, it's a helpful marketing tool, but it should not be your sole determinant and measurement for what you decide to actually create and put focus on. Because social media is a lot of people who will give you lip service in terms of their level of interest in things and then not be willing to give you their money for it.
Oh, dude, I'm sure, like, you've seen, you know that this happens because you've seen the back ends and all that. But, like, on my end, I probably see, like, 1 or 2 people a day whenever I see, like, an official RIPPAVERSE tweet, like, from the RIPPAVERSE comics. There's always, like, 1 or 2 people in there that are like, I'm so excited to I just learned Rippa. I'm so excited to finally get I'm getting caught up. And I'm like, no, you're not. Like, maybe you're buying, like, Yaiba 2
some probably are, but some of them are probably grabbing, like, maybe 1 or 2 books, and that's fine. But it's great. That's the point, though, where you can't take social media literally. You can't take it, like, word for word what people are saying, because people can say anything on social media, and they do. People all
just lie on the internet sometimes.
People just lie about games. Never mind. I'm not going to go down that.
I know we could. We'll host. I'll get you. Oh wait, damn it! You're not going to be here Saturday. I was like, I'll get you on a rant about it on your Saturday stream. Don't worry. But then I'm like, you're not going to be here. Dang it.
Rain check for next weekend.
yeah. I'm gonna write down a note. Like, you think I'm joking? I'm putting that note right next to my Andrew to-do list is do that and then buy you your pre-order tickets for oh crap, what were we making fun of you for? I don't remember anymore.
I can't keep track of all the things people make fun of me for, man.
I can't. Okay, but it's more that you and I talk every day and we joke about so much stuff that I'm like, there's 9,000 different things that we laughed about that jumped to my head, and I'm like, can't be that we're gonna. Well, you don't want to see was I pre-ordering you the next, like, I don't know, like, Sonic the Hedgehog variant cover by Greg Land? Who know? Like, that's.
Oh man,
it could have been any.
It
could be anything.
Greg Land, that's brutal.
They're rebooting. Like, shout out to Punk, because I know he reads it. But they're doing, like, either a new, like, jumping on point for Vampirella, or, like, a new #1 for Vampirella. Okay. Yeah, and I saw a bunch of the covers up for pre-order on Tifa. There's one by Eliza. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but, like, Eliza Chadikis, something like that. She did your Lady Death cover. The one with the gold dress.
Oh,
like
Elias Chetsaudis. I'm not muted.
Or I can't hear you. No,
I'm not muted.
Is it my headphones? Because it actually does look like...
Maybe you muted me.
It does look like sound still coming. Like, I think...
You're delayed now for me.
Reconnect my headphones, because that's weird.
We can't go a single stream without some sort of a...
I don't know what that was. That was so weird. Like, my headphones just stopped making sound.
Who knows?
But yeah, Eliza Chadikis, she's got.
I always mispronounce. It's actually a dude. I always mispronounce his last name, so I just call him Eliza, because I can't freaking pronounce his last name.
But like, he's got one up and it looks like really good. But then Greg Land has one up, and at first glance, like just going on the page, you're like, oh, that isn't a bad cover. Mm-hmm. But then you're like, wait a second, something looks off, and you're like, oh, I know why, because that belongs to Greg Land. I know that art style.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got Zero saying, oh, nice, late and gay. even though you're gay. And
we were here. We were actually here. We were just talking in the back.
we wanted to talk to each other before we wanted to talk to you. But
exactly. We
got MSK in the house. Aren't comic books for nerds? I have heard that. They're for big nerd virgins.
It's geek. Excuse the hell out of you.
I hate that, like, there's no good moniker to describe what we're all into anymore. Like, nerd is a bad one because it's like it got run into the ground from the mainstream. Geek sounds like that's what I use, but it sounds weird. And or like the one that's really hard is like, I hate the word gamer. Like, I like when people are like, oh yeah, gamers are excited. I'm like, it's the worst word in the world. Like, just call them fans or players or something.
Yeah, well, the issue is that a lot of those terms have been watered down.
Oh yeah.
And people will, stretch their meanings as far as they can to encompass whatever the hell they want.
Candy Crush!
Right, yeah, you play Candy Crush, somebody out there considers themselves a gamer for that, or Fruit Ninja, or whatever, Rudy Poo candy-ass game you're playing on your phone.
I will give you gamer cred if you're doing Fruit Ninja on the big one at, like, Dave & Buster's, because that one actually takes, like, skill, but not
Didn't
mobile
they also
doesn't
have that on the Xbox Connect back in the day, too?
That was, like, the biggest Connect thing that, like, to play. Yeah.
16 people had.
Oh, it was so bad. Like,
and 5 of them played.
There's going to be a cool, like, in 10 years, somebody's going to have a cool display in some museum of, like, all the peripherals that never went anywhere. And I kind of want to go see it. Like a Virtual Boy, a Kinect.
Power Glove?
Power Glove, a Super Scope, all those fun things.
Super Scope. I remember when Nintendo tried to bring back the Super Scope on the Wii. It's like, guys, it's not even a Super Scope. You literally just gave people a shell that's shaped like a gun for them to slap their Wii
But it was also
into.
Like not properly gun sized at all, or even like arcade gun. It was like smaller, so you're like holding it. It was I was so mad about that.
I think that was made initially just for was it Link's crossbow?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
I remember that coming out. I was working at Game Crazy at the time, and people coming in and being like, what's the point of this? And I would have to, because I was a good salesman, I would just have to tell them basically, this is what Nintendo thinks this is.
like a tech demo, yeah. Oh my gosh. Let's see. We also got Matt is here. What's going on, buddy? We have Timon. Timon says Corinthians are playing a derby right now, and we just tied. Have a nice stream, Shinies. Hey, he's putting us on mute. No worries. What's up, Timon? Good luck to your Corinthians. They're better than my soccer team, so at least somebody will be able to root for somebody today. Oh yeah, there's Punk. He says, I had to place an order for Witchblade 7 a few weeks ago since the comic store, and then I gotta, like, bring that up because I'm dumb. That's right, I was messing around with things, so I can't really fix that right now. But, yeah, so he had to, this comic store that I go to didn't get the normal amount of it last month. Again, just one of those weird diamond... How big was that truck? Like, was it like I don't even think it was a truck at this point. It has to be like the plane from
Dude, it had to have been like a freaking cargo plane.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
How the hell did you lose this many comic books? And like, I don't even understand what the spread for that was either, because the people that did get the books on time versus the people who didn't.
Yeah.
And didn't get them till like 2 weeks later or a week later. It's baffling to me.
It's all over the place, and it's random, and yeah, it really just looks like somebody just threw a match into like their like distribution dossier and just said, screw it.
Yeah, I don't freaking know what the hell happened with all that.
Let's see. Subhuman is here. What's up, Sub? This one's for you. He said Witchblade is getting better. I do remember he wasn't a big fan of like the first couple issues, but I know you were. So
yeah, I've been a fan of the whole thing so far. There was one issue that was just kind of like, you could tell when you're reading it where it's like, all right, this is meant to be a setup issue for sure, because not a lot is happening that is paying off immediately, but a lot is being clearly set up that's going to hopefully pay off later. And I was fine with that because like all the issues up to then had been like pretty fast paced. Like the book is moving at a pretty quick clip, all things considered. Like
from what you've told me, yeah, like
we're less than 10 issues in. We've already got we've already got freaking I mean, Ian's in there obviously, but we've also got freaking Jackie Estacado. We got the Darkness here already, and it's like, wow, okay, so we're we're rolling. And then Top Cow announced that they're also, relaunching Darkness, so that's exciting.
Have they announced the team for that yet?
I don't think they have. No,
Oh,
they've just said that they're doing it. I hope they put a good team on it. My preference, and I know it won't happen because he doesn't have to do interiors anymore.
Silvestri?
Would be I would love for Silvestri at least to do like the first issue.
I know,
right?
I know.
Like at least give me issue 1.
Give
right?
me issue 1 with a really like amazing middle like splash page where you go all out.
Yeah, where you just do your freaking thing. That would make me
and then
happy.
You go retire for like the rest of the year, and all you have to do is like approve the cover choices for the next like Witchblade and Darkness issues,
or at least do some coverage. Maybe do the opening and or closing. To each individual arc covers, and I'll be happy. Cool. Like, give me a variant, right? Give me a variant, and make it a spot foil because Silvestri's style works so well with spot foil.
A lot of that '90s art really works. Like I like, we get really great spot foils now, but what we were talking about earlier, like with Dan Mora and Jorge, like their lines are cleaner and their style is a little cleaner than the 90s, but those 90s guys, they had like the sketch and the like lines on everything. So when you translate that into foil, it gives everything even more texture and just looks more.
It makes everything pop so much.
And then look at that. Subs agreeing with you. Says it seemed like a filler issue. So looking like everybody agrees on that issue, but at least from what I know from what Andrew's saying, it is still good. It's still motoring. I still want to catch up on it. We've just been really hyper busy over here.
Yeah.
The beginning of the year is always, it's both like we talked about this, like the very beginning of the year, very slow for almost every business except for like gyms. And then you get to this point and this is where it kicks off for like businesses because you got to start planning everything for the year. All the big things are happening. And so that's what we're in the middle of. That's why we're missing a few shows here and there, but we're getting things under control. And just know that if we are skipping a show, it's probably because RIPPAVERSE is doing something incredible. I'm always here. I've never skipped a show. I'm the best host ever. But
I'm the worst host ever because I have been the cause of.
It's actually been a half division. I did the counting the other day.
I was about to say I'm the cause of the majority of them, but I think it's actually at this point split 50-50.
Yours are actually more like
both of ours have been
valid.
From either travel.
Yeah.
Well, no, there was travel because like you went to SDCC.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's
and
right.
Then, and then there was the week where like you just felt like total.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is like I got taken out like twice by just sickness, but you're like, I'm going to MegaCon. I'm going to what is it? The one in Houston, like RocketCon or whatever it was. I forget. What was
SpaceCon.
SpaceCon, same thing.
In San Antonio, yeah.
San Antonio. It's all down there, but like you're doing cool things, and I'm just like I got the cartoon like ice bag on my head with the thermometer, and it ain't no fun. But speaking of things that ain't no fun, let's get into it tonight. Not this one. We're getting to you later. Why are you open right now? Because I have like 9 different books open from trying to make the thumbnail. That's why. So there he is. Let's get to something that's not fun. Let's finally get back to Batman. End out this very first arc in so you guys, obviously, if you've been here since the beginning of the show, you heard me and Andrew break down a very brief sort of rundown of what happens in this issue, but we're going to get into it. We'll give you the proper recap. And, just to reiterate what we were saying, this is easily one of the more, like, disappointing things I've read in a long time. Or, like, arcs I've read in a long time. It's not even that it's
just, like, super, super bad. It's just dull.
It's
like
exactly.
I expected so much more out of it, given the writing.
We had so much,
right?
Well,
given Chip Zdarsky.
We had Chip, and then that first issue had so much like setup, like so many amazing things that were set up. Like, who is this mysterious person who's claiming to be Bruce's brother? How is Eddie Nigma like
which
on the
went
good
nowhere?
Side of that is probably the one thing about this that makes me the most mad.
It's like, why did you even bother? Why did you? If you remove that, nothing changes.
Nothing changes.
Literally nothing changes.
You and I were so excited because we were like, this is a good evolution. This is amazing. Like, he's still a villain, and we know that. But now Batman has to tangle with like the legal, like the actual legal side of things, right? You can't just blow into a company's office and abduct their CEO or whatever. Like they can't even do that to Lex. So we were so excited, and nothing. Like not only nothing, but generic Riddler plot. Like,
it was super basic. At the end of the day, it was just like, wow. And that's not to say that every writer needs to try and reinvent the wheel, because a lot of times that's not at all what you have to do. You just have to tell an interesting story that maybe the audience hasn't necessarily seen before, but you can play off some of those beats that they're familiar with, because playing to familiarity, especially when you were somebody who hasn't written a book of a particular character before. Chip Zdarsky isn't that guy, because he's been writing Batman for a little bit now. While. But the thing is, when you start touching other characters, it's like, oh, what can you do with that character? And for me, especially when you're handling the Riddler, who is my favorite Batman villain, I'm like, okay, so we're doing Riddler. Well, what are we doing here? And then we're doing like, oh, Riddler has face turned, right? Yeah, totally. He's totally face turned. And I'm like, all right, so what are we doing here? And then 3 issues in, I'm like, what are we doing here?
Well, I don't know.
I'm like, well, you didn't do, that wasn't even Riddler. Like, there at no point was he doing. There was the one issue where Bats was going up his tower, and like each riddle took like a panel, and I'm just like, all right, so Chip, you can clearly write some really cool action scenes, and you can write some other villains well, but you cannot do the detective style Riddler stuff with Batman. It doesn't work for you. Or at least you have not shown me that you have, because this whole arc, I'm gonna quote my assistant editor-in-chief over at the RIPPAVERSE and good friend and good work friend Caro. This idea was much cooler and much better in your head than how you executed it.
No, it really was. I know you've heard this turn of phrase before, Andrew, but like there's a very common writing idiom that is a character is only as smart as the person writing them. So you can say a character is the biggest level genius in the world. Hey, Mary, what's going on? You could say,
yes, Mary, I did get my wine because I need to try and knock myself out early tonight because I'm getting up at 3.
Yeah, guys. For those who didn't know, MegaCon is starting in Orlando today. Well, I know Caro's down there.
It started today, but like the bulk today was like the early day, you know, when cons will do that. Yeah, like the preview day.
Yeah. So MegaCon Orlando is this weekend. Rippa is there in full force. They've got guests, they've got panels, they've got our handsome boy Andrew there working the booth. So he's it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be great. He's probably gonna have a lot of stories for next week's episode, but that does mean he has to endure the nightmare of early morning travel. So we will. So I guess that
thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers out to our guy.
Thoughts and prayers and espresso and wine at the same time. Even I'm okay with that.
Have you? They do like coffee cocktails now.
There are, and there's also wine that has hints and notes of espresso and coffee in it.
How is that?
And when it's blended well in a red, it's always in a red. It's actually good. It's actually pretty good. But it's the same thing. I'm not going to go on a huge coffee rant here because then I'll just prove how much of a bougie wino I am. Even though I don't usually spend more than $10 on a bottle of wine,
which you shouldn't. But
you can spend like very little money for a decent wine. But the fact of the matter is, like, most wines that have like hints of certain things, maybe you'll have a hint of like you'll catch a hint of cherry, or catch a hint of chocolate or coffee or whatever. It's always just very, very subtle. But you can still tell when you taste it, because usually it's like on the back end that you realize, oh, there's some chocolate there, or there's some coffee to that. And it's always meant to be complimentary. If it's overpowering, then it's
right.
So why don't I just have chocolate milk, or why don't I just have coffee? The point is for it to just kind of like add on. It's like it's the equivalent of a garnish.
Yeah. Oh no, 100%. It's just when I hear that combination, like even putting aside the fact that I don't like coffee, like I know what it tastes like, and it just feels like that's a weird combo anyway, even for people who would like both of those. But I don't know how it tastes. I don't know how it's blended. I'll take your word for it. Because after being like in college and you drink all of those like blended vodka things that are like 1% vodka but 80% like sugary syrup, you kind of just go, I'm done mixing things. Like I'm just gonna take my alcohol. But thank you, Mary. I really try to I try to pride myself on the fact that I'm very aware of things, and I would like to take a lap for that. But speaking of hints of things, we had a hint of something that could have been really, really cool here, could have been interesting, and just ultimately for no good reason wasn't. Right? Yeah, exactly. So, quick recap for you guys at home. Up until this point, like Andrew was saying, this all-in arc from Chip Zdarsky, it started with Batman discovering that Eddie Nigma, the Riddler, was now in charge of, Nigma Tech, and he was becoming a big old tech conglomerate guy. And so that was like a big threat. Like, what are you going to do now? Of course I don't trust you, Riddler. And
as nobody should.
Nobody should. And then we had, this weird mystery revelation out of nowhere that, Bruce, you have a brother and he's now trying to sue you for half of the company, which we all kind of assumed it was either going to be dumb, like a dumb revelation, or it wasn't going to be real. But either way, like, that's some drama there. Like, half of my company is being taken from me in a way we really haven't seen before, right? Because, like, family rights stuff is way more thick, like, than corporate, like, contracts and all that sort of stuff. So could have been an interesting thing to see there. We had the appearance of Commander Starr, a brand new hero out of nowhere, who's very patriotic and very violent. Turns out just KGB, because the entire plot is that the Court of Owls was working for themselves to...
Working with the Russians.
Yeah, working with the Russians.
It was Russian conspiracy, guys.
It was so... and we said this before, like, it's not even that it's like we didn't read this as some sort of contemporary political swing.
No,
like,
I didn't.
Russia's just been our enemy forever. They're always.
I was gonna say, like, find me a story in the last, 30 years or even 40 years that, like, dealt with Russia where they weren't, like, kind of the bad guys.
Even like the one Russian guy in your movie, he's gonna be the bad guy. We all know this. But what we complained about was, like, that's fine. Like, we get it. It works. But you're working in, like, the DCU. You have so many more fantastical things to play with, like the Legion of Doom or Kondak or the Crime Syndicate, like, all of this stuff. And you just go Russia. It just seems boring. It's just and there's no real consequence to it.
Well, you have so much to work with, and you just kind of, like, flubbed it.
Well, that's like they introduce, like, Commander Starr, and they set up all the stuff, and then they just go, oh yeah, it's the Court of Owls and the Russians. And there's no specific Russian that they're working for. There's no big plan. It's just, oh, we're going to give the information that Eddie Nigma stole to the Russians. Done. We don't, like, okay, the most generic like Netflix action movie plot of all time. And then the other sort of thing, the other big plot point was that Commissioner Gordon was having an affair with the Mayor Nakano's wife. They got into a fight. Gordon shot the mayor and killed him. Got arrested. That was sort of a whole big drama point. It was dumb. It wasn't a really good plot point in general. But then they resolved.
Like, that also kind of went nowhere, where we're like, oh, okay, so Jim Gordon, helped a wife cheat on her husband. That was our C plot.
That was our C plot. Cool. But then, like, there's an element of drama there. There was an element of potentially, it would have been controversial, but, if Chip really committed and put in effort, you could have had this really interesting character study of, like, we always see Gordon as that paragon. Like, we see him almost like Batman, but he is still just, there was something, like, he's still just a man. We could have had something there.
So this is where I'm both going to credit and criticize Chip, because there was something in this issue that was said where I think both Jim and Bruce iterate it, where they say, most of us aren't truly good, but some of us are just trying.
Like, we're
right.
Trying,
That's paraphrasing, right? But it's like we're trying to be good men, right? However, I think, while I can appreciate that in the context of reality,
right? I
think when it comes to comic books, especially when you're dealing in Batman's world,
Yeah.
Where Batman's world is a lot of dark these days, right? It's not. This isn't the golden age anymore, guys. Like things aren't campy, things aren't goofy, like things aren't neon colored, and Batman doesn't have 16 different colored suits.
And he ain't calling anybody chum. We don't even have the what do you call it? Like the Shakespeare bust for the button that you go into the Batcave. That's not here anymore.
Yeah, that's not where we're at. We haven't been there for a very, very long time. Whether you agree with that choice or not, it doesn't matter. We're at where we're at. I think it's still important in stories, even in incredibly dark ones, incredibly dark worlds, to have characters that do stand out as that paragon. It doesn't mean they have to be perfect.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that it is still important to maintain a certain level of paragon, of light to that character. Because here's the thing. You can only stay in the darkness for so long. You can only be surrounded by so much of it. It's the same reason why you and I and many others are starting to feel like we can only bitch about things and scream about things so much until it's like, all right, we're purple in the face now. What are some things I can start praising? What are some things I can start even if it's nothing that's current, what can I start talking about that's 5, 10, 15, 20 years old that I enjoy, that I can praise, that I can give, put some more eyes on, because maybe not everybody has experienced that. It's like, hey, you should check this out. This is an actual fun thing. And balancing the light with the darkness, that's incredibly important in storytelling, especially in comic books, even in comic book IPs that are a little on the darker side, like Batman's world. Batman's world is a lot more gritty. It's a lot more brutal. It's a lot more violent. Without being Punisher levels violent, obviously, it's not there. But still, you do need to have those characters that are at their center. They have that strong moral fortitude. And the thing is, this is especially why I don't think this works with Jim Gordon, is because with one or two exceptions, which were also not good choices story-wise, he has been kind of that strong moral center in Gotham. Otherwise it's like, okay, so the whole force, everything, nothing matters. Everything is corruption. Everything is evil. You still have to showcase something that gives you hope. Someone that's good, right? Otherwise it's like, well, then it's like, not to get all religious here, but then you start to go to I don't know, Sodom and Gomorrah, and you have Jacob saying, don't destroy the city. If there are only
one good person,
right. Well, you start. Person. Well, and he was arguing with God too. He kept moving the goalpost. He was like, if there are 50 good people, or if there are 30 good people,
so
or if
that's
there are 10
where
good people,
a certain someone got it. Oh,
right.
Of course.
Where it's or if there's, if there's just one good person, right? And so you got to have someone. You do. Jim Gordon was that human being. That was your regular human being. Not any of the Bat family, not any of their allies, just your regular human being. And you take that away, I think you really do so at a detriment to Gotham as a whole.
I 100% agree with everything you said there. I agree with Gordon essentially being the paragon of light of what? Oh God. I might be, but I still understood the allegory. I still remember my Bible lessons, okay? I know how the story went.
Oh, my God.
I'm not saying I'm the good one who's going to get the city spared.
Oh, man. That was funny.
That was really good, Mayor. But, so I agree with absolutely everything you said. Jim's got to be the paragon, especially he's a good counterbalance to Batman, right? Because in the context of what you're saying, Batman spends all day staring into the abyss, and he can lose himself. He can forget himself sometimes. But then you have that parallel of Gordon, who spends the days also looking into that same darkness, but still somehow manages to have that damn fortitude, whether it's stubbornness or ignorance or whatever it is, to get up and be like, I'm still going to try to help Gotham. I'm going to try to do this. So I agree with all of that. Playing in a cards dealt sort of situation, I think there was a chance here to go, oh, let's do an exploration of just what you were talking about, Andrew, the don't stare too much into the abyss, make sure you have hope. and you could have had Gordon do a stumble, right? Like whether I don't know if I would have done like sleeping with the mayor's wife. That to me just seems like way too egregious for somebody like Gordon. Like Ollie, sure, Dick maybe, but not Gordon. Like that's
right.
Just...
And the thing is, there was no buildup to that to even try and convince us that this was something even remotely feasible for us to believe out of him, right? Where it's like, okay, so showcase us over the course of I think this is a C plot that you, if you're going to do it at all, which I don't think should be done, but if you're going to do it at all, you do it 2 or 3 arcs down the road, and up until that point, you're building up this maybe platonic and then growing beyond that relationship between Jim and the mayor's wife, right? So that it's like, okay, try and give us, because infidelity I disagree with in general, but if you're going to try and still have us believe that a guy who is as morally centered as Jim Gordon is going to fall into this trap, he's going to make that mistake, you have to sell that.
Exactly.
And there was no sell there. They literally just told us that it happened. And I was like, where's the buildup? I don't know who this is. He doesn't even know who this is, as far as I'm concerned, because they've known each other for 5 seconds.
I know. No, when I read that, I was like, wait, did I miss a page? Like I had to go back and I'm like, no, that's Gordon.
Yeah.
When? Why? What the I was so confused. But so to all of that, there was a chance for Chip, if he did it right, to explore, do all that buildup and everything. But at the end of the day, so as we learned last issue, after all this drama about Gordon having shot the mayor and him losing himself, they just go, oh no, he was being mind controlled by the Mad Hatter. And it's just like, that's it? Like you did this big character breakdown thing and you just went, oh no, it wasn't really his fault. Like, I don't know. It just felt so...
Well, yeah, because then
then what are we doing here at all?
Well, yeah, so they first try to present us that, oh, wow, Jim Gordon, he did that? That's horrible. And then they pivot and they say, oh, no, it was just the Mad Hatter's glasses, right? And then they pivot again at the end of the issue where Jim's like, oh, but, the glasses got broken, so I was still making my decisions. And I'm like...
Because there's that exchange actually really... perturbs me because we'll get to it. We've been teasing you guys too long with a recap. We'll get into the actual book now. I'll walk you guys through it. Obviously, starting off with an amazing cover by Jorge Jimenez. I didn't realize this until seeing the trade version that the yellows were supposed to be a question mark. I thought those were just supposed to be light effects of their cape and stuff going, but it's a question mark.
Now just pulling back.
Yeah, exactly. The pulling back, yes. Okay. It's because I went to the comic book shop yesterday and grabbed some stuff, and I was like, oh, I see it now. Yeah.
But the thing is, Nigma played no part in this issue.
I know. I'm gonna put out a game theory, but I almost feel like he did all of this off of the initial pitch because they were like, okay, Jorge, you're gonna work with Chip. You're going to do covers, and you're also going to do interiors. And he's like, what's the story? Oh, it's a Riddler thing with Commander Star. Oh, you got to go, Jorge. You're reassigned. And so he's like, I don't know what's going on, but you've got all the stuff I did, so have at it. And,
honestly, that's probably the likely scenario, too. That's seriously probably the likely scenario.
Where did he go, though? I can't tell you.
I don't even know.
I haven't seen him anywhere. I thought it was this.
Covers, right?
Yeah.
He did some covers, and that was
that's all he's really doing. And maybe the occasional backup splash page when you're doing a big anniversary issue or something and you're doing the recaps at the end, he'll do one of those. But yeah, he's not doing a book right now. So it was such again, we complained about this before, but if you guys don't remember, they advertised this entire arc as Chip and Jorge Jimenez. Mm-hmm. Jorge was on the first issue.
Yeah.
And then he's on some pages in this final fifth issue. And every issue prior has had a different artist.
It's been a different artist every single issue too, which tells me they were scrambling. They were scrambling to people who already had work and they were in the middle of something else, but they had just little work, just little enough work where they had a window where they could knock out a 20 2-page
I
book,
guarantee you,
right?
We go back and we look at because I know it was Tony Daniel and like 2 other guys. So I don't remember those guys, but if we go back and look at their schedules, I almost guarantee all 3 of them we're gonna find like, oh, a miniseries just ended before All In started, and we'll be like, oh yeah, look at that. There's the gap where DC said, can you help us out?
That honestly, that's entirely possible. I'd believe that.
It's such a bizarre book. Again, flagship book, one of them at least, and you're just
This
dropping
is
the
Batman,
ball over.
man.
Yeah.
Like
900...
this is the equivalent of, well, okay, so that would be
I know what you were gonna say. That
would have been hyperbole. I stopped myself. That would have been hyperbolic and unfair. It's not the equivalent of Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, I knew it.
It's not the equivalent of Amazing Spider-Man. However, it is the same kind of baffling letdown that it's like, how is this not your best book?
Yeah, actually, like this should
it's
be
not
where...
the same level of bad, but it's just kind of like why would you not want this to be your best book?
Right. Like, I've always held that at least, you can't have all your books always have like an amazing team on them. Like, you could say, give all the main 7 Justice League members great teams all the time. Like, unfortunately, just logistically, you can't do that. But I've always figured
most artists are contracted, they're work for hire. It just they're trying to. They have a calendar, probably a freaking Excel spreadsheet of the dates that they have available to do work for one publisher or another, and unless they have an exclusivity contract, which most artists don't these days.
Most don't.
And so they're just trying. Guys, most artists don't have that crazy of a page rate.
No.
So they're just trying to get by. They're trying. None of these guys are living it up lavishly. As amazing as a lot of these artists are.
And as much as we praise them and we see them going to, Comic-Cons and stuff.
Here's the thing. If somebody is still regularly doing interiors, they're not living it up lavishly. If somebody only does covers, they've got money. Because they can guys like Campbell, guys like Silvestri, maybe some other ones.
Frank Cho.
Frank Cho, where it's like he
Alex
can just
Ross,
do some pinups, and then if he wants to, like, he can go to a con, he'll sell some prints, maybe he'll sell some originals, and he'll make bank, and then he's good. He's chilling. Because he demands such a ridiculous cover rate or pinup rate that he doesn't need to do the other stuff. He doesn't need to do sequentials.
No.
Right? And DC will still pay, or Marvel will still pay that cover rate because they know that that's a draw. They know that, like, if Campbell does a cover for them, even though he's going to charge them out the butt for that cover, and deservedly so, that cover will sell. Like most of these interior artist guys, they're not like that.
Did you see? I don't know why it made me laugh so much, but down by MegaCon, there's a big billboard for Alex Ross. And it's got his like Avengers piece, like the one of the classic team that we've all seen, and it just says like Alex Ross, and I'm like, what are you like? Did you just buy a billboard to be like, look how cool I am? I kind of respect that. Let's go, because it's not advertising a book or a statue or like anything. It just says Alex Ross, and I'm like, all right, go for it.
No, it's because Alex Ross is a draw. Like you put Alex Ross on something, it's gonna sell. It's as simple as that.
Alex Ross, this is like the way I view Alex Ross. He's the way you communicate or translate your superheroes to normies, right? Without losing their superhero identities, because he has such like a good classical art style, and it's realistic, and nobody can deny how great it is. When he draws somebody in a spandex suit, doesn't matter if you think like, oh, that Jack Kirby drawing of Thor, that's weird. You'll see Thor by Alex, you'll be like, okay, I can believe it. And that just it helps sell them to normies. Like that's all I mean.
That's true. Okay.
But yeah, so Jorge, we have no idea where he is right now. Was supposed to be on this book, was not.
Idea.
Returned for a few pages here, but we'll dive in finally. So we open up with the aftermath of last issue, where Eddie Nigma tried to blow up his tech building, just sort of like hide the evidence sort of thing. I actually liked this scene, Andrew, where the Mad Hatter shows up and he's like, they're like, oh no, we like the GCPD's like, we got to clear the bombs out. There's probably more. And he's like, don't worry, I mind controlled a few people to help us out. And then they're like, yeah, like hands on the ground, get down. And he's like, oh no, don't worry, like I'm not fighting this. Like I'm with you this time. I don't know. I was just like, I like that. I know he's a villain. I don't think he's like a good guy now, but it was just like a fun little character moment where he's like, I know I'm not beating you guys, but
I would ordinarily be asking what his angle is on all that, but considering we went nowhere with Nigma on this arc, I'm kind of like, it was probably just plot convenience.
Oh yeah, I mean, all of this is plot convenience. There is no angle here. It's just, how do we wrap up his story without having to address it later on? And
right, without having to address it in an actual fleshed out manner.
Because theoretically, you would have him actually escape right here, right? Like, okay, maybe he does defuse the bombs, because he does say, like, Batman saved my life, so I'm paying it back. And then he runs away, right? Like, haha, off I am to my next scheme. But no, he's just like, take me away. And I'm like, all right, whatever. But
nobody that gets captured by the Gotham City Police Department ever stays captured. Come on, guys.
Never.
If you've been reading DC comics, especially Batman comics, for longer than 5 minutes, you know this. People don't even stay locked up in Arkham. Like,
no, it's literally a revolving like turnstile at Arkham. Like you can come and go as you please. But so then we pick back up with the.
It's like an open campus high school. Which I don't even know if they do those anymore.
I have no idea.
You can go down to the local Subway for lunch. Why the hell not? You don't want our crappy cafeteria food?
Oh no! Of course we. Oh man, we had that, and then they took it away like halfway through my senior year, and I was so mad because I'm like, this was our time. I could finally get Jack in the Box.
My high school, like, I think I went to a private school my freshman year. I think that's the year that they took it away from the public school that I wound up finishing high school at.
Oh wow, yeah. See, and it's just like, why? Trust us. I don't know. What are we gonna go do? Film TikToks? We don't even have that yet. But back in Gotham, we have the I forget his name. The Court of Owls guy that has been bugging Bruce this entire arc. He is on the move. He is flying out of Gotham, and this is where that scene happens that Andrew was talking about, where Batman
like the one really good scene in the book.
And it is really, really good.
Yeah.
So
Chip is the same guy who wrote that like atmospheric re-entry scene, so we know he can do cool Batman action scenes.
And that's so like let's get through this, and then I'll give I'll say what I was going to say. So I just want to show everybody what we're talking about, because so the Court of Owls guy, he's off to Russia. He's going to sell him all the information that he got from Nigmatech. Batman says, can't do that, otherwise we're going to have World War III. Gets like up to the plane, like rockets with the Batmobile, shoots out of the windshield, grapples onto the plane, gets on there, blows open the hole like in the door, and like jumps in and starts fighting. And it's a really crazy fast action scene. Like Andrew was saying, Chip's really, really good at these. And like I really like this part right here. Like they're fighting and Batman elbows a dude, but then he realizes like, oh crap, I knocked him out of the freaking plane. But he's Batman, he's not gonna let him die. So he batarangs him and he's trying to hold on to him. And the Court of Owl guy says like, I've got you. And we get this like pretty crazy. I thought this was a pretty crazy moment just because of what happened. But, the guy shoots at Batman. Batman blocks. Some of the bullets go past him. And one of them like cracks the pilot like right in the head. And I'm just like, oh, damn. Like now we're really screwed. Yeah. Oops. Yeah. But then, the Court of Owl guys dies. Batman realizes like, I got to save the plane. It's going right in for Gotham. Can't really do anything. So we get this amazing moment where he uses his tech to do Batmaning, right? Like throws out, like he talks about like, I need to put one explosive there. Crap, I'm out of that kind of explosive. So I got to use like ballistic gel over here. He ends up.
And then he has to ignite that.
Yeah, then he has to ignite it. So he hitches himself to the top of the plane, picks up 2 guns and starts, boom. He's like, I got to get these shots just right. Because if I blow off the wings, I got to blow off the wings of the plane so I can land on the street. But if I do one wrong, it's going to, send the plane spinning and we're all dead. So he's like, boom.
Especially me, since I'm standing on top of it.
Since I am on top of the damn plane.
Me first, by the way, is basically that.
So, Yes,
I like the way that Chip describes Bruce's thoughts in that scene too, where he's talking about
about the gun.
I'm super pro 2A, but Batman's
but
character.
This is Batman, right?
Yeah, this is Batman. He is not like a pro gun character. He does not use guns. We know this. This is integral to his character, at least post the Golden Age, right? So yeah. That's a very important facet to his character, and I like how Chip describes Bruce's thoughts while he's using these. He's saying, something to the effect of like, I don't like how this metal feels in my hands. Yep. I don't like, the feeling of the reverberations of the gunfire and all that going up my arms.
I have to do this. But...
I hate I'm doing this, but this is going to save a ton of lives, and I'm doing what I have to do. And he's not using it to kill somebody to save lives, because that's something that he would not do. However, he's doing something.
He gives up. When he finds that he has to use a gun, that's when he gives it up, and Terry becomes Batman. But what I also liked about this moment, Andrew, is that what Chip got right here is both, acknowledging Bruce's like, I fucking hate that I have to use guns, like I don't want to do this, but there's no hesitation, because Bruce is like, I know this is the tool I have to use, so here goes the plan. I hate that I'm doing this, but I still know like it's just a tool. I have to get over it, is basically what he's saying.
In this instance, it's just a tool, not an instrument of death.
Yes, and so I was like, that is
in his mind
the perfect way to handle this, Chip.
Yeah.
And then so wings come off successfully. KG Beast is about to hang one of Bruce's Wayne Tech employees, just starting a general riot in the streets of Gotham. I do like when so I know this is Jorge Jimenez's page, because Jorge sometimes does little like effects, like old school comic effects, and you can see here where like KG Beast is like stringing up the employee, and then he's like, we will what? And then there's like a big red blinker on the plane indicating that he notices it's coming, and Bruce has this like grin. I don't know, it's one of those cheeky moments where you're like, oh, good guy time, like like he's coming. So I loved this too. So slams it into the ground, plane is skidding. Batman uses that momentum and just leaps out of the front to, just start fighting. Doesn't make sense. Rule of cool. That's all it is. It's rule of cool. He doesn't need, if he jumps out of the plane, I imagine realistically the plane's probably going to pass him under like almost immediately. But yeah, rule of cool. Have your hero jump out of the front of the flaming plane. It's amazing. So Batman comes. So this is the scene we were talking about. We get this like anime ass moment, this Gurren Lagann moment where Batman jumps out of the cockpit.
Panel.
Yeah, right, and just wham, just decks Commander Star, and they're like, "Let's go, gladly," and they just start whamming on each other. But this is sort of what we were talking about. You get that one shot of them like punching in the gut. We get this page right here where they're, a total of 3 panels where they're hitting each other. Then we get, admittedly, a pretty cool, this was probably the coolest bit of it, where KG Beast busts out like arm blades. And I like this because Batman whips his like cape at him and covers his arm and like confuses him, kicks him away, and using like the cape takes one of those blades and is like, all right, like my turn to go. And then like, this was crazy to me. Bruce just straight up like slices off KG Beast's hand. Like I don't know if this is something to address. Like I know he's the bad guy and he doesn't have a hand, but I don't know if I've ever Bruce intentionally butchering somebody that hard. It felt
seems
weird.
A little excessive for Bruce. Yeah. Like Bruce will kick the absolute crap out of somebody.
Oh yeah.
But dismembering seems maybe
especially
a stretch.
If he doesn't have like a bomb in his hand, or he's like holding it's not all or nothing here. Like
the response doesn't seem commensurate with the threat.
Yeah, it's just way over the top. And it's weird, and this is what felt weird to me, because he slices off his arm and then he starts going for the punching, and then we get that thing of like, oh, I need to tell myself to stop. Everybody's watching me. And I'm like, feels like maybe you should have done that in reverse. Like, I think maybe everybody would have understood the like beating, but then it's when the sword comes out where you're like, I need to not do this. So I just felt real, like, again, it's what we were talking about. It's really rushed. Nothing like, because that's it. This is what you guys just saw. that's it. You get those few punches, those few
Yeah,
kicks,
it's like a page and a half.
a slice off arm, and then we're done here. Just all done. We then, so that's the end of the, the main arc. KG Beast is down, Court of Owls have lost, Eddie Nigma is going to prison, I guess. Then we get a wrap up to the E-plot to this arc, which was, Bruce has a brother. I know. It was nothing. I
literally went nowhere.
I forgot it was even an element of this arc until this page. Like
there was no point. Like I said it before, you could remove this entirely and nothing changes. In fact, what you do get, I'll take that back a little bit. What you do get is a few more pages to work with within your 22, 24 page book put towards having a better final fight between Bats and KG Beast.
That's a good point. Yes.
I would throw out that entire D plot in order to have a longer, more drawn out fight between those two. Because they've been teasing him this entire arc and then did nothing.
We could go back. I remember, at least for me, when we read that first issue, I was like, I am so excited for Commander Star.
Yeah, we're like, who is this?
Like, this is going to be nuts. They're going to get in a fight. And then even when they were like, it's KG Beast, I was like, okay, not who I thought.
KG Beast in disguise? Okay,
but
fine.
Cool.
We're playing off of like the kind of Red Scare where there were,
exactly.
You had your Russian assets like deep undercover in the US back in the 80s. Okay, fine. You know what? That's believable enough to me. You can sell me on that. That's actually not difficult to do. That's not a stretch of the imagination whatsoever. But then your execution was boring.
It was so boring. It was very, very disappointing. But of the biggest disappointments, speaking of, we have the revelation of Bruce's brother, who turns out to be this guy, William. So Bruce goes to talk to him, meet with him. We learn that the guy dropped the suit. And all in all, what this epilogue here does is reveal that the guy isn't Bruce's brother. Like, there's DNA tests. The guy's mom was kind of off her rocker. And so there's no extra Wayne brother. Bruce Wayne's dad, Thomas Wayne, wasn't an infidelity committing womanizer. We're back to status quo. Andrew said, didn't need any of this. I will give Chip credit here. The writing in this scene felt pretty good. It felt really natural. It felt like, I can get behind this guy. I like it. I don't know. It was very heartwarming. It was nice, but it doesn't serve anything. It doesn't serve a story. This is, when people are like, people should make a sitcom about me and my group of friends. You guys probably do enjoy it, and you probably got some heartwarming moments and laughs, but overall, nobody's going to care because it just doesn't contribute to most of anything. And that's kind of what I felt about this. It was just nice little moment, not a lot going on. But then this is where we start. This is where the big sort of sticking point of this issue pops up for me, which is Bats and Gordon. After everything that's happened, they still get together and they're hanging out for their nightly or weekly, cup of coffee atop the GCPD, and they're chatting. And Gordon's like, "Yeah, I got to get back on the force. I got to get my life back together." Blah 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 blah. And then so this is what Andrew was talking about right here. Gordon starts talking about I feel so guilty about everything and da 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 da. Batman goes it's okay. It wasn't you. Nigma did it, right? Like the Riddler. He got the mind control tech. He gave you those glasses, and then he told you what to do. And then, admittedly, a good callback that I didn't even notice, in that issue. Gordon's like, I have to be honest with you, Bruce. Those glasses broke. When the mayor punched me that first time, they were done. So that rage I felt, the pulling the trigger, he's like, that was me, or at least he's like, in my heart, I feel like that was me. That was what I wanted to do. And so, this is where it starts bugging me. Because then he's not confessing, but talking to Batman, and Batman just goes hey, the mind control technology, it could have some lingering effects. We know this. And Gordon kind of goes he doesn't say no, but he's kind of doing that thing where he's I hear you, but I was so angry. I know I pulled that trigger. It wasn't Eddie. It wasn't any of that.
The whole scene felt like a cop-out.
Well, it feels like a cop-out, but what really bugs me is what happens right here. I
know what I am.
But like right here, this is what bugs me because, oh yeah, you were being mind controlled, and Gordon's going, no, I didn't. I did that. And without any further interrogation or anything, Batman just goes like, okay, we'll get through it. It's like, okay, theoretically, your like friend just admitted to you that he murdered somebody in cold blood.
Knowingly, right? So it's like,
like Batman, maybe you go, okay, we're gonna walk downstairs and we're gonna, before Harvey cleans out his desk, we're gonna have him process you or something. I was just like,
yeah.
Because then, he gives that speech you were criticizing where he's like, mistakes were made, mistakes will always be made. Both of us are human, Jim. Flawed. There's no way around that. All we can do to try to do is be good men. And it's like, okay, a good sentiment, maybe in like a West Wing type of show or like a more grounded drama type of thing. But one, this is Batman and Jim Gordon, who you think like, you guys do a little bit more than just try. Like you do give yourself some credit, because otherwise you're undercutting what we believe in you and all of that like sort of stuff. But then, it's like your parents were murdered by gun. Like you had that breakdown when you found Gordon with the gun in the mayor's apartment. You just let him go after he says, no, I did that. It's like, okay, no, it's cool. I don't know. It was just so, like you said, it's rushed. It wraps everything up. I know that this is Chip's last Batman issue, so that has a lot to do with it. But it is just, it's bad. Like I'm very, like I hated this.
I was just super let down. Mainly because this was the first Batman arc that I had picked up in terms of a monthly issue.
It's been a while
since Tynion was writing, because there's a large gap there, like a 2.5, 3 year gap where I was not reading.
It goes from like Tynion to like Tamaki and like a rotating cast of people for like a little bit, and then Chip starts, and then now we get to the end of Chip, and Chip's been there for a few years, so.
Yeah, and as I understand, like Chip's had some good arcs. Like he's had some good stuff, but this just wasn't it. And for me, it was especially frustrating because like when I stopped cold turkey with comics.
Yeah.
Because one, I couldn't afford it at the time, and two, I was just kind of over most big two comics. However, the one book that I was tempted to like just hold on to, the one book, was Tynion's Batman. That was it. That was the only book that I was like, okay, do I completely cut myself off cold turkey, or do I hold on to just this book? And I said, you know what? I'll just cut myself off cold turkey, and maybe if down the road I feel like going back, I'll grab a trade.
Yeah.
Right. And I like collecting trades anyway. And so, I didn't feel too terrible about that. But like going from what I remember the quality being from Tynion's run on the book to then jumping in on this, after having heard and read that like Chip had some like really strong arcs, maybe nothing like mind blowing or stellar or, franchise altering, like you would credit maybe like Snyder to, or somebody else, and you're just like, okay, but it was like good. It was good writing, good books. It was a strong book. There's a reason why it performed well for DC.
There's a reason he's been on it for a few years, right?
Right. Like, it's the reason why they didn't kick him off early, right? Like they did with King, because it didn't cause like a huge portion of the audience to quit the book on their flagship freaking character.
To quit the character. Yeah, like not just Batman. Just like Detective Comics were dropping, Legends of the Dark. Like I don't want anything to do with him.
Right. And so I was like, wow.
He killed Batman's like reputation and popularity for even just like, it was like a minute, but he still did it. How do you do that? It's Batman.
Yeah, how do you mess up Batman, man? Like, that's sad.
Everybody loves Batman, but so I was hinting at, or like I touched on it a little earlier, and then you and I got away from it. But on that note of like Chip is, or a character is only as smart as the writer. Chip is really good at, like we saw with the plane scene, he's really good at like action. And then if you've read some of his Daredevil stuff over at Marvel, he's really good. Like he does good with the legal scenes, right? Or like the courtroom scenes. So like what Chip's really good at is like pizzazz and like flash and like, giving you a show, whether it's a plane exploding or it's Daredevil and, doing some legal maneuvering in front of everybody by doing a flip in court, whatever. He's really good at that. But once you try to get him into the nitty gritty technical sort of side of things, that's where we start seeing everything fall apart, right? Like, oh, mind control glasses. Really? That's it? Oh, yeah. The Russians. That's it? Oh, Eddie is actually always like, he had no plans for this. It was always just to help the Court of Owls. That's it? Like, so that was probably the problem here, is that Chip tried to go to, like, I don't want to say intellectual, but he tried to play on sort of like a higher difficulty ranking. Like, because when you have something like, the Riddler, who is supposed to be this super hyper genius where all of his riddles are genuinely confusing and intricate to do, and then you have the Court of Owls, who are basically like the Illuminati, who work behind the scenes.
They're Gotham's Illuminati, yeah.
And like nobody knew they existed until 2 years in universe when Batman first fought them. So these are smart people, and you make them do the dumbest things. It's just, you need somebody like a Grant Morrison or like an Al Ewing or even a Jonathan Hickman if you're going to give them these really big what am I trying to say here? Like in spy thriller, like you wouldn't give Chip Zdarsky a spy thriller because
I certainly wouldn't after reading this.
Yeah, because the spy element would be really bad. You'd have cool like opening set pieces, but then
you might have some cool set pieces and action scenes, but like beyond that, it's like, well, where's the story at? Where's the mystery?
Exactly, right? And then you would get things like, oh, how did they get a hold of this information?
And even the drama was weak. Right? Like the whole thing with like his supposed brother who wound up not being a thing at all. And then, it's like, so none of this
Gordon is Breaking Bad. Mind control. Like, really? Like, that's the thing we make fun of in comic books nowadays. Yeah. And you just did it.
Like, I file that right next to holodeck episodes, right? So it's like, this is, I don't know, man. That feels like super boring, super basic cop-out stuff. And I would expect better out of a Batman book.
I really would have too, yeah.
If you're okay, so if you're doing an arc with Batman and it's focused more on, say, maybe Deathstroke.
Yeah.
Or one of your more like, yeah, he can be conniving, he's smart, right? But he's not still more of a straightforward, like this is gonna be a knockdown, drag out battle, right? Or even if you want to maybe do a Bane. Or Bane.
Yeah.
Right? Well, Bane is still pretty smart and manipulative as well, but he's still not like Riddler. Once you're I'm going to do Riddler, then I'm going to be like, but how smart are you? Right? That's because that's the thing. In order to write somebody who is intelligent, you yourself have to be a believable level of intelligence within some sort of given range of that character. Otherwise, you remove your audience's level of believability from it, because that character is supposed to act how they're written, how they've been portrayed, right? Which is incredibly brilliant. Riddler is one of the most intelligent characters in the DC Comics universe. And when he's written well, he's phenomenal. It's the reason why he's my favorite Batman villain and just one of my favorite overall villains in DC and just comics as a whole. But if you put a writer on him that doesn't understand how to play to his strengths and how to play to the nuance that is that character, you end up with something incredibly underwhelming, which is what this arc was, which is unfortunate because Chip Zdarsky chose to, I think, try and punch above his weight.
Yes.
Here, narratively.
Absolutely.
Instead of sticking with what he's clearly good at, which is good storytelling and good writing, but still, this was a type of character, and every single writer out there has a type of character or has a type of story who they're like, it's not really my bag, so I'm not going to do
Not
that.
Everybody is good at writing everything.
And
that
it takes
never happens.
It takes a self-aware person to say, hey, like, I kind of want to write this character, but my talents don't lie within that range.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm limited. I have a range. It's one thing to try and like expand your skill set, but you do that elsewhere. You don't do that in a mainline Batman book.
No, no, you get a backup story, right? Or you make your own thing and you try that. You don't, especially
you don't botch an opening arc to a new kind of like
yes, that's what I was getting
initiative,
at. Yeah.
You know, with the flagship character.
This is
you don't do that.
Put your best foot forward, and you put forward like a peg leg. Like,
yeah,
I don't know, man. Like, you knew you knew it was coming. This
like it wasn't even a high tech prosthesis, right?
Yeah,
it was, you're literally working with like, Redbeard's peg leg.
Well, no,
right
like the thing in the movies where they like break off the leg of the like chair and like just immediately jam it in. That's what you've got. Like no refinement, just
that's functional and sanitary.
You're going, look, everyone. But
it's totally a leg.
Overall.
Unfortunate.
For those of you wondering, don't worry, we're not dropping this book because next issue we're hitting the big leagues in this book. So very excited for Hush 2. Okay, that was all completely ironic, but we will be reading Hush 2 just because it's something we know everybody will want to talk about it, and you know we'll do our duty to give you a fair read of it, an intellectually honest read of it.
I'm half tempted to just like have you reach out to your Pakistani friend for me for this next arc.
You know what? It wouldn't be,
but I know that like because it has the Hush name attached to it, even though it's stupid, and because it has Jim Lee on interiors, like these. I don't usually think of comics this way. This should tell you how annoyed I am about this. Because it's going to have Jim Lee interiors, I will get first printings of this stupid book, and I will bag and board them. I will file them away, and I will probably sell them off later on.
No, see, what you're doing is you're rationalizing, like, is there anything any benefit to me reading this? I know I have to do it. Can I get anything? And you're like, well,
I have no interest in this story.
At least I can junk it.
Yeah, I have zero. I can flip it. I have no interest in this story at all.
Absolutely zero. Like I do too, but I know we're gonna.
I didn't have any interest. I didn't have any interest in freaking the follow up to Long Halloween. What you think I'm gonna like? And I love. So Long Halloween is praised more narratively. Hush is obviously praised more because it's Jim Lee art.
It's Jim Lee
and
art.
I love Hush. The story is great.
You don't like the art, I know.
Narratively,
narratively,
I
mixed it up.
Long Halloween is superior.
Oh yeah.
But the art, I can't stand Tim Sale's art. It's not for me. It's not my bag.
Which is fine.
But I do love me some Jim Lee, and so that's why I have this. I'll get the single issues for this, and then if the books end up being worth anything worth a damn, I'll flip them down the road. But I'm super annoyed that they're doing a sequel to this at all because it was, hold on, what was it? 2003? I gotta double check.
Maybe even like before, like 2. It was at the height of like Lee. That was the height of when Lee was getting like. Or like that was the last moment when he was doing interiors before he became
originally
big man.
Published in single magazine form in Batman 608 through 619, copyright 2002 2003. So we were
both
kind of
right.
both right.
Yeah.
That's like, dude, that's over 2 decades old. Subhuman. There have been, with counting this one, exactly 1 sequel to Hush. This is the sequel to Hush.
So somebody, I think. Either Reeve or Adam in the Discord brought it up last night.
No, it was Subhuman.
Was it Sub? Because
yeah.
Oh yeah, it was you, Sub. Yeah.
Yeah, he's reiterating his question.
Yeah, that's right.
Discord
you are.
Server. This is the actual full sequel.
We got like because you were right, Subhuman. Because last night he was like, wasn't there a sequel already? And I looked into it because I was like, I feel like we got something. And there was an epilogue in 2022 where they like. It was just randomly thrown into like the back of an issue. Loban and
that doesn't
Alex
count as a sequel.
Well, but what they did was like it was an epilogue, and then it said to be continued. So it was like, oh look, it's a teaser lead into Hush 2, and then here we are at the
and then
sequel.
They never did anything until now.
And look, guys. It's obviously like it's a cash in. There's nothing you need to add to that story. They're cashing
in on the arc name. They're cashing in on the fact that it's Jim Lee.
Yeah.
And Jim Lee is here's the thing. Jim Lee, he's an executive over at DC. I doubt he's getting a page rate to this. And if he was getting his page rate, like, it would have been a pittance.
Well, that's
like, hey, you walk up to Elon Musk. I don't care how people feel about
Elon
Musk.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You walk up to Elon Musk. You're like, here's a free $5 bill.
If he slapped you, I would be like, you deserved it. Like I'm not even legally
like, here's
free.
Some charity for you. Like, really?
Well, that's what I was going to say when we were talking about page rates and all that stuff. I'm like, that's probably half the reason they gave Jim Lee, like, the executive position, because they're probably saving.
To pay his page rate
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly. Like, they get the art at, like, a fourth of the price.
Right. Yeah. So, I don't know.
It's complete cash-in. The thing I just want to end with Hush 2 on is the ridiculousness of it, because, like, not only are they making it, not only was it, what did you say, Andrew, like 20 years since it happened, but they're doing...
It's been 23 years!
They're doing the stupid... Like, I don't... We've all seen this stupid, like, release schedule, but they're doing 6 issues of Hush 2, then there's a gap, and they're going to go back to, like, some other writer to do an arc, and then, like, a year later, they're coming back for the last 6 issues. And it's like...
Yeah. So it's just going to be a year gap. How many people are going to... Okay, so people who aren't Jim Lee fanboys, of which I am not. I love Jim Lee's art. However, I'm not a fanboy enough to say, yeah, I'm super stoked to get 6 issues that might come out over the course of a year, and then wait a whole 12-month calendar year to then start getting the next 6 issues for this arc.
But we're also comic book fans. We know that that's not we are not getting those books on time. Okay. Fucking no way.
This book is incomplete.
Oh yeah, that's right. Jim Lee like ran out of time, and they just went, gotta go. They have
Jim Lee
scripts.
Didn't finish it. Yeah,
Frank Miller did like 2 more scripts. It's ready to go. Jim Lee just didn't have time. I don't
know what the hell you want, man.
And guess what, Andrew? Like, another factor that I just realized is that not only is like Jim Lee busy with his, executive stuff and doing covers or whatever, but you're about to hit the press tour for Superman. Like he has to be out there. He's Jim Lee. He's the DC comics head.
We're probably going to, and actually I hope we do. We're probably going to get like a main universe Superman cover by Jim Lee, and an absolute. Well, we've already had one absolute Superman cover by Jim Lee, but I will probably get another, right? But when is he gonna have time to draw these sequentials? Like, I know the man still draws regularly, but still, like doing pinups and doing covers is not the same as doing sequentials. You have to pace yourself entirely differently. When you open up, a sequential book. The art that you are getting in each of these individual pages, especially you got a page where you've got like 12 panels on it, you're not looking at the absolute peak of what this artist is capable of.
Oh, heck no.
Because they have to bang out these sequentials in a reasonable time frame, right?
And remember, they have to follow a script. Different. And they have to follow like what is the script writer saying? They have to run it by them and make sure it's good. There's inner panel like layout, like I got to make sure that character is over there. Way more stuff than just like I'm gonna draw Power Girl.
Yeah,
like it is way more demanding. So I don't know when he's gonna have time. We'll probably get like 3 issues, then a delay, and then who knows if we'll ever see him again.
I'm tempted to say I will eat my left shoe if there is not a delay.
I will
in either 6-issue part of this story.
Okay, you know what? I will join you in this bet, and I'm going to put it to our audience. I know they're not big yet, so I'll keep reiterating this week over week until we start getting there. But we will, Andrew and I will make a bet. You guys level the punishment to us or whatever. If Hush doesn't get a delay, we will do X, and we're open to suggestions, so hit us with that, whether it's here or Discord or Twitter or whatever.
Within reason, clearly.
Yes, within reason. Try to be fun about it. Unless it's like funny mean, then we might executive order and say, yeah, that's great. But yeah, don't be ridiculous. Like
if it's just something ridiculous and mean and gross, then we're gonna be like, nah, sorry.
Yeah, like we want to.
You're
do something
just being
fun
a YouTube chat.
yeah, exactly, right? Like we're not Mr. Beast. We're still Spencer and Andrew. We still have dignity.
This is foil variant, not Jackass.
For now. But yeah, so that's Batman. Hush 2 is coming. Nobody's excited about it.
I'm not.
Fart. Like that's really all I have to say about that. But here's the thing. We got really carried away this evening. We have 15 minutes left. I know you wanted to keep this wrapped. I'm assuming you want to close out with X-Men. But is there anything...
We'll close out with X-Men.
Yeah, is there anything you wanted to we can rapid fire some things? Is there anything you just wanted to touch on? No.
Well, there were a lot of books that were just kind of like... Nothing this week was like super standout bad. No. But nothing was also like really standout amazing either. No, so it really wasn't. I'm trying to think right now because I enjoyed little bits about a few books.
Yeah, right?
Psylocke I was kind of disappointed with. It was just kind of... It happened. I didn't dislike it. The art was still great.
I agree with you. And I think the thing is, like, I opened to this book and I was expecting...
I think the whole robots thing and the design for them was just kind of like hokey to me, and it didn't fit with the tone that they had set so far for the tone.
That's literally what I was going to say, because, like, we're looking at John Greycrow here with the... remains like the mutant robot.
He's missing an arm,
which is crazy. Right? And it's like, whoa! But then the things that attacked him are like a robot turkey and a robot like wolf head,
super goofy robot designs that have like. Even when I saw when they teased like the shadows in the background behind
up here,
of what the thing was that might have attacked him, I was like, that looks super goofy, man. Like that's some C movie.
Yeah, I was like, what are we, like, where did this even come from? Like, there was none of this element in any of those, like, past issues. Like, I had no idea where this came from.
I
random robo experimentation.
I don't know where this came from. They introduced a new villain, and I was just like, I am finding it hard to really care about this issue, and that's in stark contrast to how we felt about the first two. Because the first two were super interesting. The art was beautiful. The art's still beautiful.
It's still beautiful, but this is what I noticed. Like, because I got through this issue and I was like, why did I not feel the same sort of like pizzazz I did off of the first two? I went back and it was like, the designs, the story's a little weird, but I noticed that there's that one page that I stopped on a second ago, this one, and I'll go to the double spread real quick. Whoop, wrong one. There it is. So like this page is great, but
there's a lot going on. There's a lot of dynamism. There's a lot of action happening.
And it's what we've seen from the other two issues.
And it's what I want out of a Psylocke book.
Exactly. But then this was it. And sort of like we get fight scenes later on, but they're not as intense as we've been seeing.
They're like if anything really cool is happening, it's happening in like one, maybe two panels on a page, and the rest of the panels on the page seem kind of benign.
And it's like
I know that this artist is capable of so much more than that. So to me, that tells me that like the writing for this issue in particular was just kind of like, not really there. And maybe this is the issue in this miniseries, which is just kind of like it's a setup issue. It's meant to just introduce the villain.
Filler we were talking about.
Yeah, it's a filler issue, right? So it's like, okay, this is by no means on my like drop list or anything now. But I was just kind of like, I didn't really feel much from this issue compared to the last two. The last two I was really jazzed about, and this one was just kind of there. So I was kind of bummed.
Nope, that's exactly my thought on it.
And that's why I messaged you earlier, because all of the books that I expected and hoped to have like make an impact on me this week, I was just kind of like wow, I'm having trouble. I was down to my last two books this week when I said I'm having trouble figuring out what my book of the week is, because nothing's really standing out to me as being particularly stellar. And at that point, I think all I had left was X-Men and Ultimates. And
those were my last two as well.
And that includes the fact that I had already read Psylocke. I'd already read Phoenix, which I've been loving Phoenix so far for the most part. You know, and there were some cool moments in this week's episode issue,
Same
whatever.
Thing.
But there was nothing completely like mind blowing. I was like, wow! Like they introduced a new costume, and the costume looks fine. You know, like I'm sorry, like anybody that tries to redesign Phoenix is always going to come up short because you're never going to top the freaking Dark Phoenix red with the gold. Like, it's right not happening. Like, you are never topping that costume for Jean Grey. I'm sorry. Like, you could be the most stellar concept artist in the world. You're not beating that. It's not happening. I'm sorry. The gods are working against you. You may as well give up now.
It's like Spider-Man's black suit, right? Like, they
like out of all the alt suits for Spidey, you're not beating that.
Never beating that. And we've seen them try before. Like,
we have, and he has some great suit designs.
Like, Humberto Ramos has tried to redo the black suit.
Sure.
Chichetto just redid the black suit for Ultimate.
Which looks cool. He was kind of doing a take on the Spider-Man 3 suit a little bit there.
100%. But it's still just like, you can't top perfection. Like,
you're not beating that Secret Wars suit. I'm sorry.
White patches on the it's so good. But yeah, so that's Jean's old costume, but I was just gonna pull up the new one because it's fine.
There's not much else happens this issue. I think this costume probably looks a lot cooler if her face wasn't drawn weird here.
Her face is drawn really weird, and
her face looks super strange here.
They gave her like a big 9 head and like squished it, and I don't. Yeah, she looks more like Chuck than she does. Jean.
So there are a few things wrong with this image here for me, and the costume itself
like the neck
doesn't bother me. I think the costume itself could work weird, but that helmet, it's very Shi'ar inspired.
Yeah.
But I think the issue that I find here is because I expect more of that headgear style to be associated more with Aurora.
Yeah. Well, so you never know. She gets a new costume every issue nowadays, so she might be having it in like
6 new ones in this
in
current
4 issues.
Dude, it's crazy. But it doesn't feel right the way that the way that it sits on her head there, and then the way that her face. This might actually. So I'm not necessarily going to knock on the penciler for this. This might be an inking and or coloring issue.
This feels like an inker issue. It really does.
Yeah, it feels, now that I'm looking at some of the contouring on her face, this might be an inker over rendering something.
I think it's an inker over rendering, and then I think there was maybe some confusion on the colorist's end because her
face looks super pale here more than usual.
Super pale, but what I was gonna say is, I really like I always like that effect when somebody wears like all black and they have like stars on them or whatever.
Yeah,
great effect. But to that point, I think in whatever direction the colorist was given or the inker was given, they probably messed up defining the neck right. So instead of being like actually looking down at you, she looks like she's like start the reactor, like she has no neck, like, and that makes it even weirder. She's like Krang.
I can see that. Yeah.
But yeah, like overall, I think it actually could be cool. Might be cool, but But I can't stand that helmet. And then this is
the
not
execution in this panel.
Yeah.
It doesn't look. Maybe if they did something different with the helmet, but right now it just looks like they're giving her Vegeta's widow's peak.
Yeah. It's reverse, or no, she's got Super Saiyan hair. Yeah, that's what's. Yeah. She's got Vegeta's Super Saiyan hair. Hopefully, now that it's revealed, we'll get more looks at it from like cover artists. So we'll probably get something from like Peach and Scott and like Lyrics and Art German stuff, and maybe it'll look better. But yeah, not a great first look at that suit. So
yeah, kind of underwhelming, which makes me sad because I do like Phoenix a lot, and I like the current status quo of the Phoenix, where Jean Grey is finally hopefully this stays, and whoever comes next, or even this writer, doesn't decide, hey, we're gonna do the thing again where like Jean is afraid of the Phoenix and she doesn't know what the hell to do.
I really don't want to go back to that.
Can we finally, after 30 freaking years, embrace the fact that Jean Grey is the Phoenix? I'm leery right now because of the whole like she like sent the Phoenix into what's-her-face in the last issue.
Yeah.
Even though she took her back, it was just like a temporary thing. I was initially very concerned there when she did that, because I was like, do not give me we're making Echo the Phoenix right now. And literally like nobody cares.
Why won't it come back to me? Like, I literally thought that was going to be the last page. And I was like, I swear to like Xenu, I swear, like I am going to commit an act if that's what I read on the next page.
I was genuinely concerned that was going to be the case. Honestly, I'm right there with you, bro. I'm glad that's not what happened.
Yeah.
And it does look like that's not at all the route we're going. But it was a legitimate concern because I actually like this new, because look, Jean Grey for the last, like, I don't know, 30 years hasn't actually had that much character development. She's been in the hands of some truly diabolically bad writers who I don't know mind rape other characters to change them gay and do other stupid crap.
That's not this Gene. No, I know.
Right? Where it's like, come on, guys, can we really stop, please? And right now, this status quo is really cool to me. This is like, oh wow, this is actual character development for Jean. Like, she's saying, okay, you know what? A lot of stuff's happened. I've been through a lot. There have been a lot of death and rebirths. The Phoenix is kind of a symbol of death and rebirth. Maybe I should finally embrace my identity as the Phoenix. The Phoenix and I are one. Let's explore. Yep. I like taking the cosmic angle. That does two things. That gives character development, legitimate character development that has gravity to it with Jean. And the other thing is that it removes a freaking cosmic entity from Earth. Where it's like, okay, so why is anything a problem if the Phoenix is on our side?
Happening?
Right? She can go out there and she can be having really cool, crazy cosmic battles like fighting Thanos, the Mad Titan, right? That's cool to me. I am all here for that.
But now that she's off Earth, we can still believe the X-Men are going to go fight like the Reavers, right? Like,
exactly.
Guns are now a problem again.
Exactly. And it's like, so why is literally anyone who isn't, I don't know, not even Mr. You know what? Screw that. Not even Mr. Sinister at this point. Like, nobody on Earth should be a problem for the Phoenix if she's on Earth. No, now she's tackling other bigger, greater threats out in space, out in the cosmos. That works for me. Narratively, continuity, all of that actually makes a lot more sense. To me, that's them looking at like their power scaling that they've done, or lack thereof, for the last couple of decades, and they're like, why have the X-Men struggled with anything at all? Like, there are very few Avengers that are on the Phoenix's level.
There's like
very few.
Maybe Thor on I was about like the best day.
Like Thor on a Thor on his best day. Okay, cool. That would be a hypothetical because I'm super over the whole hero versus. So you're saying he would be as
strong as his mom, right?
Oh,
I know. I love nudging you about that one.
I hate you so much because I hate that retcon even more. But I'm trying not to get angry. So
welcome to the Summers family reunion. Meet your brother, Cable.
Oh
Thor.
My god. So a hypothetical hero versus hero, all out Odin Force Thor versus Phoenix Force might be cool. That would be a cool thing. And
you would open up that book and the like floppy would explode. Like that's all I can think of with that fight. Like too powerful for fiction.
You put the correct writer and the right artist on that. That is a cool as hell one shot.
Yeah.
That being said, beyond that, nobody in the Avengers is challenging the Phoenix. I'm sorry. So it's like, all right, why is she here if we're going to pretend like anything is an actual problem? All right, here's our solution. Jean Grey is embracing the Phoenix. She's a cosmic being. She's going to handle cosmic problems. Cool. Easy. Look how easy that was. Great. Fantastic. Now let's actually dial back things a little bit for the X-Men and things on Earth so that we can have some better paced storytelling. And that's now what's kind of happening to varying degrees of success. And I'm glad for what's being done right now with Jean Grey and the Phoenix. I'm like, I've kind of been championing this series so far. Like, I've been genuinely enjoying it. I want it to wrap up in a satisfactory manner because I don't see this being a super long-term series. Did you notice in this week's books, Marvel started showing like how many issues quite a few series are that hadn't been announced as anything other than ongoings before?
It's got to be in here then. No, I didn't see that. Or maybe it's on their site, but no, I didn't see that. That's crazy.
So there are a few, between both Marvel and DC. So like up until this week, I had no idea that there were plans for Black Lightning to be anything other than an ongoing. Well, it's actually a 5-issue miniseries now.
Yeah, that
which tells you
nothing's-
what its sales probably
Yep,
are.
1,000%.
And honestly, and I think between the two of us, I'm the only one actually buying the physical copies of the book each month when it comes out.
Oh, Black Lightning, yeah.
The art is beautiful.
It's great.
The art is absolutely stellar. The story is just kind of like it's okay. It's not bad.
Fine.
It's not great. It's just
it
kind of
is
like
what it is.
there. And
Yeah,
I'm like I was here for it because I loved the interiors and the covers were really cool. And I was like, you know what? I haven't been super down with Black Lightning since like Meltzer was writing Justice League of America back in the early 2000s,
like
right?
Yeah, like that's way long ago.
We're talking Tornado's Path is what we're talking here, right? So I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna check out this book and see how it is. The art looks really great. Let's see what we're doing with the story. What's he been up to? And then I'm reading it and I'm like, he's not even the main focus.
Yeah.
So like, while I will say his daughters have really cool designs for their suits.
They're cool.
I dig their designs, but it's
what you were talking about. I
don't care about them as much as characters.
Well, you came for a Black Lightning book. Why am I focusing on all these 900 other like people? And that's hyperbole, I know, but it's like I want Black Light. If you wanted to do what are their names, like Lightning and Thunder, you can do a mini on that, and you know we'd probably still
do
pick it
a
up
3-issue mini.
But you're setting our expectations by saying Black Lightning, like Jefferson. No, and that's when we go,
Jefferson Pierce.
right.
I was like, all right, you know what? He is a cool character. I do like him. Let's see what he's up to. And then I'm just not getting much of him unless it's in direct relation to his daughters. And I'm just like, not disrespect to them as characters, but that's not what I'm here for.
Yeah, it's just
I'm here because I do want to see a really cool Jefferson Pierce Black Lightning story, and that's not what I'm getting. I'm getting
not getting it.
I'm getting a decent story with his daughters that he's kind of involved in.
It feels like a very middle like they want to make a new character, like a new generation, and they're writing the story. It's not a big breakout one like you would advertise something like when Kamala Khan was introduced, but it's nothing as bad as like when Miles got put in the 616. So it's just sort of
nothing like that at all.
Like there, it's just like
exactly.
It's
like
a story
I said,
that says they're here, and that's like
it's not a bad. It's not a bad book at all.
No,
it's just kind of it's fine. Beautiful art, genuinely beautiful art. Like the both the pencils and the inks and the colors are all fantastic. But the story is just kind of like
it's just
the story's fine. It's not uninteresting, but it's not interesting enough for me to continue with it beyond this. I guess now I know 5-issue arc.
5 issues, yeah.
5-issue miniseries.
Well, you might even have dropped it like just in general if you didn't know that now it was only 5.
Well, actually, so on my list of books that I will potentially drop, Black Lightning's on that list. Flash, Batman, Black Lightning, Amazing Spider-Man, Exceptional X-Men, and X-Men are all on my like potential drop list.
Oh, X-Men, you tricky devil. We'll get to you in a second, but
and
we keep teetering on that.
I wrote this list 2 weeks ago, mind you. And I was just like, this isn't what I'm here for. Maybe there are fans out there who are like super fans of Jefferson Pierce's daughters. Cool, that's awesome. I'm happy for them.
Well, then why didn't you show up for the CW show?
Right? Maybe you're here for this 5-issue miniseries. Cool, happy for you. But I was here to see Jefferson Pierce. I was here for Black Lightning because I think he's a genuinely cool character.
He is,
and I wanted to support his own series. I was like, you know what? I'm putting my money where my mouth is.
Exactly.
I want cool original black characters instead of tokenizations. You know what? Black Lightning is one of those guys. If you did a mini series or something with Icon, I'd do the same thing.
Oh, money down! Like, what was it? Like McFarlane, right? They just announced
McFarlane did a freaking
Icon figure.
I was blown away.
When you shared it I was like, no, and it's like his original Milestone suit, and I'm like, who remembered this? Like, Dwayne McDuffie is dead. Like,
so many. Look, I know a lot of toy collectors. Jeff, my co-host on the High Council, and the 3POA podcast guys, and a lot of other guys. Like, they have a lot of things to say about McFarlane Toys. But one thing I will credit McFarlane Toys with is that they do end up doing a lot of figures where it's like, wow, if you had asked me a year ago that we were going to get an action figure of this character, I would have told you you're out of your mind.
Yeah, like there's absolutely
like giving me
chance.
giving me Jay Garrick, giving me Max Mercury, giving me Bart, right? And now Icon,
and
giving me Tempest,
and
Tempest.
Even like, you know, they're not the best suits or whatever, but like the Dark Knight's metal look for Jay too, like not just and Max, like
the fact that they did those alts
right.
as well.
That's what I mean. Like really? That's I would have never in a million years ever.
But he did, and I was probably one of the 16 people that bought that figure. But you know what? I'm glad that I have them because I don't buy a lot of action figures, but I have made the commitment that if McFarlane Toys puts out a Flash family figure or Flash adjacent figure or a Titan/Teen Titans character, I will buy that. Other than that, like with very few exceptions, I'm like hands off because they do put out a lot. Outside of that, I have Young Justice, Con-El, so I have Superboy that they did, and then I have Batman Beyond.
Is it the? I know you said Young Justice, but so it's the jacket one, not the T-shirt one, right?
It's the jacket and the shades,
like
curl
it's thing.
Yeah, like that's my preferred version of Connor. Beyond that is just Flash and Titan stuff. But like the fact that he did Icon, I was like, are you serious? Like I gotta get that figure.
I can't wait until like he does they're gonna do like a Wally Harley 2-pack, and then it's gonna come with the Sanctuary mask accessory, and we're gonna pre-order that for you, and we're gonna get it like
what is wrong?
What do you call it? Like slabbed and everything.
Do you just hate me?
A little bit.
You hate me.
Just a tiny
Ladies
bit.
and gentlemen of the chat, thank you for being here, by the way. Mav has just confirmed that he loathes my entire existence because he brought up Heroes in Crisis.
It is art, okay? I'm sorry that you can't appreciate deep storytelling.
No, Clayman's pencils are art. That story is absolute festering 3-month-old liquid, and pardon my French here, dog shit.
Completely accurate, and I just realized something. So we've talked about this before. They brought back Sanctuary for Absolute Power because Amanda Waller was like, go steal me the secrets. We haven't seen it since Ollie took it. Like, are they going to ignore it again? I really hope they ignore it again. Like, I'm going to, like, head on a swivel for the next, like, 5 years looking for that damn mask in the background of anything. Because the second it shows up again, I'm going to lose my mind. Because, yeah, bad story. Just bad everything. Bad Tom King. At least we got the, who was it that did the, like, arc where like, Wally changes time or whatever and saves everybody except for Roy? Was that Williams?
That was Adams.
That was Adams, yeah. At least that was good.
I gotta double check.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that was. Where is it? Yeah, that's where we find that. That was one of the 3 times they retconned Heroes in Crisis because DC even realized, like, modern DC even realized, oh, that was bad. We made some people mad. Okay, so that was Jeremy Adams. Well, hold on, Kevin. Which issues does Kevin Schnick write? What? Oh, he just wrote those last few Barry issues.
Oh, the filler ones that were going into...
Yeah, the filler stuff that was up through whatever it was, the Endless Winter event with Black Adam. That was super random and made no sense. Yeah, all the stuff with Wally going through time, being chosen by the Speed Force and, like, repairing the Speed Force, and then frickin' one-shotting Savitar. That was Jeremy Adams.
I loved that arc when like he's like jumping into everybody else's bodies like through time, but then they did the thing I like where they actually did it in like the different art styles. Like he looked different, and I'm like, yes, thank you. This is what I want to see. But like how hilarious it took for Adams doing like a follow-up retcon series 3 years later for Heroes in Crisis to have any actual emotion.
Well, and that was like the second or third time that they'd retconned it by then, because even so, Joshua Williamson in Finish Line, so his final arc that he did when he was still writing Barry, he retconned Heroes in Crisis that it had been Eobard Thawne whispering in Wally's ear and manipulating him. at the time too. But DC was just like, yeah, it's probably not enough yet. We need to retcon this crap more.
Well, that's what I was going to say. They're like, okay, well, you can at least make it so Barry or like Wally wasn't a bad guy, right? Like, okay. Oh, they still don't like it. Okay, bring everybody back. Oh, they still don't like that it even just like happened. Reset everything. Like, we're just gonna 3 crises in a row. I don't care anymore. Like, let's just get through this.
It wasn't even Wally's powers going out of control, because that's
what
okay. So
them.
there are a million things wrong with Heroes in Crisis. Pretending like Wally's Speed Force powers going out of control is a thing is one of the more retarded ones, because I'm sorry, he has more control over the Speed Force than anybody else in existence. And so to pretend like that's not just a hard sell, that's a no sell. Like, you can't sell me on that. You cannot. The best comic book writer in history, I don't care if it's DC, Marvel, wherever, they could not convince me that that's a thing. Canonically, that's not a thing.
You can do it. You can do it for like an issue or two, and it has to be and it can only be explained in the Spider-Man 2 style, right? Like, Wally's having some sort of like emotional crisis, and you'd have to make it believable. Like, maybe something happened to Linda, or like the kids are missing or whatever. And that leads him to just, get in his head and stop perfectly aligning with the Speed Force. He's not disconnected.
But we didn't even have that to work with.
That's
because
what I mean.
At that time in the timeline, they hadn't even decided to put Wally and Linda back together, let alone confirm that his kids were still alive, right? Like, we had just had... Where the hell was... I love that I can always just turn my...
I know. I actually do, too. I actually really love it.
Flash War told us that Wally's kids didn't exist in the current timeline. And that's what broke him, right? And so it was like, all right, I understand him being mad. Not just mad. That's an undersell, but like him there being genuine emotional bereftness there.
Yes,
because he was one of few characters at that time who remembered the timelines before. He remembered when he was married to Linda, when they had their twins. They had this whole life together, right? And then the timeline got messed with by Dr. Manhattan and other characters. He got removed from the timeline completely because Dan DiDio is a piece of crap. And then, all of a sudden Linda doesn't even know who he is, let alone them being married.
I fucking, excuse my friend, I fucking hate that page where Wally shows back up, and you go that entire, because that's DC Universe 0 or whatever, and it's like you go that entire...
That was,
or was that the Rebirth Zero?
Rebirth
Zero,
one
yeah,
shot.
yeah. That
was the Rebirth one shot.
You go all through it, and Wally's like, "I remember all this. I'm coming back. Like, I'm finding my way through." And you're like, "Well, at least me and Andrew, we're like, fuck it, finally, he's here. Like, thank you, he's back." Then he zooms in and he lightnings in. And you're like, he's even in his Kid Flash suit. Like, this is really him. And then
Linda, she's like, I don't know who you are, right? And I was just like, are you serious? They only managed to save that. Like, I'll give Jeff Johns credit here. That was only saved because of them tying it specifically into Barry.
Yes.
And them tying it to like Wally is like not father and son, but not too far off from that relationship with Barry. Right? Yeah. Where they did, that was still impactful, that was still special, and I was like, honestly, I wish you would just not had him try and approach Linda at all, if that's what you were going to do with that, and just go to Barry.
So,
because that really did frustrate the crap out of me, because Linda was Wally's lightning rod. She is what kept him grounded, and she was the reason why he was able to enter and exit the Speed Force and timeline on his own volition and return.
The moment when she's like how many, maybe only like Lois Lane and maybe Iris and maybe Carol. That moment when like Wally's like, I'm zapping out, bye Linda, like Speed Force, and she goes, not without me you're not, and like grabs him and kisses him.
Oh, you're talking about
right before
Infinite Crisis.
Yeah, yep. And like that, like who does that? That is like, that they're in love, so you see that connection, and then we basically get palled. Over at DC. It was...
Yeah, literally the only relationship in DC Comics that's as strong as Wally and Linda is Lois and Clark.
like even over Barry and Iris. Like I know they're a classic one, but they're not Linda and
They
Wally.
are
Sorry,
a classic
guys.
one, but Iris wasn't characterized as strongly as Linda was.
No, definitely
is
not.
the fact of the matter.
And there was also, so as you guys know, Andrew was doing his top 25 comic book artists on Twitter over the past few weeks. I'm going to start doing it now that he's over, but more to the point, because his one of his last artists was and I'm always going to forget his freaking name. Flash guy.
Which one, Mike Ringo or Oscar?
No, not Ringo. Oscar Nunez. I know Ringo.
Oscar.
But yeah,
Nunez,
Oscar. Yeah, like Oscar. I always forget his name, but so Andrew was talking to me about him, we were talking about his art and stuff. I went back and I was like reading a bunch of I opened it up just to see what he did, and then as we all know, you open up one thing to look and you just end up reading it.
Go down a rabbit hole, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, and one thing I really...
He had a super dynamic style for that era.
Oh no,
too.
he was great. Like you said, he is definitive to the Flash. Like he is Wally. But there,
this dynamicism to the movement was not a thing in this era of comics.
This was wholly
over at
unique
DC.
to Flash. Like this was even Spider-Man, like Mr. Acrobatic didn't have this level of like movement portrayal.
No, he didn't, because to be fair, McFarlane hadn't been on the book yet.
Oh yeah, of course. It was still like, well, it wasn't Ditko anymore, but it was everybody from the 80s and stuff. So it was like Sal Buscema.
There was a very, and that's why McFarlane made the book blow up again.
Oh yeah,
was because there was a new level of dynamism added to the movement of the character, whereas before Marvel had been very like stringent about like the character in the way that he was drawn, and it wound up putting him. He was still their best-selling book,
of course,
but he did stagnate to a degree.
He did. In the 80s,
and when you add something new and fresh and flashy like that, no pun intended, genuinely that time, like that really does help.
This is just who he is.
I there's no off switch. I am what I am.
But yeah, like in those old issues, Linda wasn't like, maybe she was introduced or like she was intended to always be the love interest, but the first couple dozen of times she appears, she's just the reporter, and she's just like talking to Wally like normal. It's not until I forget what happens, but like Wally sits down on a bench after giving like an interview or something, and she sits down next to him and they start talking. And I'm like, this is so like, I like this. It's natural. And then they I don't know. It's I'm just saying they're the best couple. I'll even let them give Lois and Clark a run for their money.
Yeah. No, I would agree entirely.
But let's see. Okay. Let's see if we can quick shot this one in at least 10 minutes. Or at most 10 minutes, because I don't want to keep you anymore. I know this is what happens. It's been 2 weeks since we've talked comic books, and we just get lost in everything we haven't. And we've been like busy too. So we even I even recognized this on like Sunday night. I was like, I haven't talked to Andrew that much this week. This is weird. Like, I know I'll see him on Thursday, but then he's
working a lot.
I know. Both of us have been busy, but I'm just like, wow,
you had a mountain of work over at Bounding. I've had a mountain of work over at RIPPAVERSE.
And then you're going off to MegaCon this weekend, so I'm like, I'll see you someday. But let's get to what did turn out probably to be both of our books of the week.
Shockingly,
I got it last week, but I didn't read it because I was like, what? It doesn't matter. Like it. I was like you, Andrew. I was like, it's mid-case X-Men. Who cares? Like, I'll read it before the show because I know we'll talk about it, but I don't really care.
Probably expecting us to once again kind of clown on it a little bit, right?
Honestly, I expected us to open this and be like, nothing happened. Like,
which is usually what happens with a mid-K X-Men book.
But out of nowhere,
and for the first few pages, that's what my feeling was. But then, all of a sudden.
This, like, we'll just dive into this. We're not even gonna like hype it up, but recap. As you guys remember, we just got done with the raid on Greymalkin. So they, the X-Men and the Uncanny X-Men just went into the prison to rescue, who was it? Jubilee, Hank, and our new girl Calico. Calico. They were captured. They went to get them. We all remember that. We clowned on the giant like spaceship, which was really stupid. And so that is where we pick up with this issue. Is immediately after that we have the government, the ONE, which one I just want to I will give McKay credit for this. I can't believe he remembered the ONE, because I don't know if you even remember them, Andrew. They were after House of M, like when Wanda did No More Mutants, and it, like the U.S. and the world was like in chaos from everybody losing their powers or whatever. There was this mini unit they established for a while called the Office of National like Expertise or something, or National Emergencies, and they were basically and they basically like they were Gundam pilots but in Sentinels. So they would they would like hang outside of Xavier's and be like, "We're here to protect you," and the X-Men were like, "We know that's a lie, like whatever." But they didn't use them.
Why you always lying?
That video turned like 10 this week. I saw the guy upload like a redo, and I was like, "Oh, I don't like that."
I don't like it.
And he looks old now too, and I'm like, "Oh, like I want to go back." But
I don't like that at all.
So yeah, just shout out to him for remembering that the ONE exists, because after House of M, they just disappeared, and I don't know why. I thought they were a decent concept you could play with, but so that is who we open on here. The ONE are zeroing in on the X-Men's base in Alaska, kind of coming to, arrest them, punish them for having invaded the Greymalkin prison and hurt people, raided, blah, 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 government property. And yeah, so for the first few pages, like Andrew said, it starts out with, we're at the base, we're focused on, everybody who's there, which it's just Glob, Magneto, and Zorn, who were
it's kind of a nothing with the sole. Yeah. It's kind of a nothing with the sole exception of Magneto mentioning, "No, I don't not have my powers. I just don't have much control over my powers right now. So I'm actually more dangerous than usual." Which I was like, "Oh,
like, oh man, what are
okay?"
Like, okay, Magneto. This is also the first time we've
where
seen
we might
you.
be going. Like
you did. No, you predicted that in the first issue. You're like, I wonder if their powers are gonna like get stronger. And then I read that and I was like, oh look who was right.
Look who was right once again.
But
I know
more
nothing.
More often than not. But you know nothing. So it does start, sort of worryingly, where you're like, it's just gonna be the X-Men going, oh look, the authorities are here for us again, yada yada, whatever. And then the team arrives back, and this is where, like, I'm still in disbelief at how fucking incredible this next.
I can't believe how well this segment was handled. Honestly, this is my favorite. I won't say
version
favorite
of this.
version of Scott, but I would say my favorite type of Scott, which is Scott actually having some balls.
Well, it's Scott when he stops playing nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Scott, when he stops playing nice, is actually freaking scary in the best kind of way, because he knows the right buttons to push, because he's worked on all possible sides. He really has. He's been the guy that back during freaking the Second Coming era, had a freaking murderous task force. We had X-Force there, right? Where you had Logan, you had Laura and them, and wasn't Warren also part of that team?
Warren was on there. Deadpool was on there. Phantom X. Yeah.
And it was like he was Psylocke. He was finally ready to do what was necessary, but he was skirting that line between okay, so you're doing what's necessary finally, but you're still struggling to find the balance between Magneto and Xavier.
Yes.
Which was an interesting place to put the character. A genuinely interesting place to put the character. You get some development there, right? Where it's okay, so he's not just the Boy Scout now, but he's also not, he doesn't want to be the bad guy either. He's trying to work his way through this world that is a world that is oftentimes not black and white, and there are a lot of shades of gray to wade through, and it's a pain in the butt to do so. And that was a really interesting place to put his character, and we don't see that often enough.
Well, yeah, no, we don't, and it's kind of I always viewed it Scott as the proverbial metaphor, story of a child, right? You could see your parents' way of life, but you might go I see your way, mom or dad. But there's this other bit, and I need to go into the future, and maybe your way doesn't work anymore, and how do I deal with that? And that's what you were getting at, where he's I was raised by Xavier, I was raised on those principles, but Scott's been, the leader of the X-Men.
How do I apply that in a less than idealistic world?
He's seen the realities of what happens to. Again, we don't really like that they keep harping on this plot point, but Early days it works. Early days it works, but in a world where like he does get like not harassed, but like shot at just being outside. Like he's seen all of that. So it really is that conflict of like, how do I show that we're not like dangerous? Like, how do I make it so that we can exist, whether it's coexistence or separate existence, but at the same time show that we're not, just going to be walked over. And so he always, and when he does break that, like,
it's that balance between choosing autonomy and like self-respect, while also not trying to all of a sudden present yourself as a villain and an antagonist. And that's a difficult path to walk for some people, for some characters, especially in comic books that have powers like Scott's. And right now, I will actually say this is actually a consistent thing. So okay, here's something. In the same way that the only thing that has been handled properly in Exceptional X-Men being Emma, because she does understand the voice. Eve Ewing, for whatever reason, knows how to write pretentious, snooty bitch. Surprise, surprise, I guess, right? Maybe it's a self-insert there. But I get this is an instance where even if it's a self-insert, it's still actually character accurate. You don't get too many of those, but that does tend to be the case here.
It does.
Jen McKay's best work on this book so far has been his Scott moments.
It really has.
There was the first moment with him in Luvdisk. No, Luvdisk, that's a Pokemon. Ludvisk, whatever the hell is. It's Russian. I don't give a crap.
The agent, the U.S. agent guy, whatever his name
Agent
is.
L.
Agent
L. Fine. Agent. After this issue, it's definitely Agent L.
That's actually really appropriate.
So there was that first scene with them in the diner, right? Where I remember even back then, that was like episode 2 or 3 of this podcast. We praised that scene. It was like, wow, Scott was kind of
like,
putting it on the table, right?
Yeah, that's exactly the term you used too.
And then after that, you had that scene between him and Magneto a few more issues in, right? Was really well written. And now this one, and I'm just like, I didn't think of this until now when we were streaming. And I'm like, I think Mid-K does actually have a strong understanding and voice for like gives no more F Scott, but it's like the overall plot and just about everything else around that he doesn't have an ability to do well.
Yeah.
But when he does these moments, it's like I am all in.
Like if you just cut out these like 3 Scott moments we've gotten so far and just shared them on Twitter, everybody would go, "This run has to be amazing. Let me read it." And we would be like, "Ha ha ha, joke's on you."
No,
that was just the best of it. Like,
yeah, that was literally the best. It's all the best. The disparity between the best and the rest is like here.
Yeah, it is monumental. It's almost as big as the release date gap between, Cyber Frog 2 and all of the other Cyber Frogs, right? No, I'm kidding. But I'm not. Anyway, so enter Scott. Scott's here. They update him like, oh, the ONE is here. They are coming for us. And he basically just goes like, send in Agent L. Like, if he's here, I'm talking to only him. He sends him in. And Agent L comes in very much, I know what I'm doing. I have all I have the high ground, essentially.
He thinks he has the high ground and all the power in this exchange.
Because he comes in and he's
Scott very quickly proves
it's
otherwise.
So good. Because, Agent L is like, you raided a government facility. You're unlawful. Like, you're unregistered. Like, you're done. Like, I've got you. And Scott basically just goes like, no, you don't. And he tells them, essentially, like, it's the Shakespeare. I'm just going to quote it because it's the best way to summarize it. Like, the villainy you teach me, I will execute, and it shall go hard, but I will better the instruction. So Scott's basically saying, like, I'm done playing around. If you try any of this shit with us, I'm pulling off the gloves. And the guy, Agent L's going like, you can't do anything. Like, what are you going to do to us? And he's like,
it was kind of the whole, like, whatever you pay back to me, or whatever you do unto me, I'm going to pay back unto you 70 times 7.
70 times 7. Yep. And
he kind of proves it, like, verbally, but he, like, the things that he does say in terms of his response are like
great.
Oh yeah, that's a thing. Like he does. Like Agent L like tried putting it on the table, and Scott was like, "That's cute."
And then he put it on the table, and the table smashed. Like he's
right,
like,
the table broke in half, and it was like, "All right, yep, it's cool, man, it's cool."
But yeah, so like half of Scott's plan. So he's like, it doesn't matter. It's like, what are you gonna do? And Scott, again, like, it's funny you brought up X-Force, because he reveals that he has another like clandestine team in this era,
the
Hellions, and I was actually really happy to see the lineup because I like Boom Boom a lot. Like, I just like her. She doesn't have that personality at all, really, but I like her. And I also like Phantom X. So I was like, oh, cool, nice to see them. But basically, Scott deploys them to all the different ONE facilities, whether it's their like record archives, their data servers, their like military surplus holding like area, and just wrecks it. And so he's like, he says something about like, yeah, the Agent L's like, oh, so you want a war? You just declared war on us. And he's like, what's going to be like better for America? For you to go to war and lose even more, or spend a half of that money rebuilding like your facility? And it's just like, oh, man. And then
get somewhere it hurts.
And then this, I really liked this moment. This is what I was telling you about earlier. If you guys remember a few weeks ago, we reviewed an issue of Mid-K's X-Men where the X-Men go to the Avengers and it looks like they're going to fight, but it turns out just to be like a baseball game and dinner, and they're hanging out, and it ends with Scott and Carol sort of being like, hey.
If you remember, we were both annoyed that was like what wound up being the outcome of that.
We're just like, what? That's it? Like this entire
what's
issue
up, Real
just
Red? Good to see you.
Oh, hey, what's up? Yeah, just like that entire issue just for Scott and Carol to be like, oh yeah, we're cool.
Yeah,
we're both
cool.
like, that's really, really dumb. Still really dumb. They could have handled it a lot better for that setup. But I will admit, this payoff that Jed gave, I kind of like, this was my like, oh moment, because Agent L is in here. He's saying like, we've got you, like no matter what you threaten.
We'll send in the Avengers. Really? Are you gonna?
Yep.
Like,
and
are they gonna come?
Goes, yeah, that's what Scott says. He's like, they're like, yeah, Agent L says, we've got you dead to rights. You've got nothing in the tank after what you did at Greymalkin. And Scott goes, maybe, but you don't have any superhumans. Tell me, what did the Avengers say when your superiors asked them for help on this op? And then Agent L is just like, do you see any Avengers here? And I'm just like, oh, that's what it was. It was Scott technically like rebuilding relations and everything so that they can avoid this. And it's just, these are the moments where you see like,
you're
Scott's
seeing some strategy behind.
Exactly.
You're seeing some strategy behind Scott's movements here.
Everything Scott does here, he's like, checkmate, checkmate, checkmate. Like, you have nothing to do here. Yeah. And he really doesn't. And, you know, as he says, you've pulled a knife, I've pulled a gun.
And at this point, that honestly only makes sense, right? Like, he is operated under either under or alongside the leadership of some of the most brilliant strategic minds in the Marvel Universe.
He is.
Charles Xavier, Eric Lenscher, Emma Frost. Like, these are people who, like, are not slouches when it comes to their intellectual prowess.
No.
So you don't get to stand next to those people and be a freaking idiot, right? And not learn anything. So
well, it's
it
also
only
like,
makes sense that he learned some,
right? Like, know your enemy, learn from your enemy. He fought Magneto and Emma for years. I would hope he learns, like, I remember that they do this. Maybe I should.
Before he started banging Emma, he was fighting against her, right? So, like, he should understand. Yeah, he should understand, you know, how brilliant of a strategist and smart she is and know how to operate around a character like that. This is intelligent, natural, organic character development for Scott. I've seen some posts online of people like, oh, this is just Scott turning a villain. No. You are misunderstanding literally everything about this character and everything that has led up to this moment, if that's what you're getting out of this.
This is literally just him saying, like, no, I'm done. Like, this is my what do you call it? Like, my insurance card.
Yeah, you shouldn't be treating Scott Summers like he's Clark Kent.
Because he's not only is he not, but he's got completely different circumstances, completely different goals. You know, like Clark's not fighting for all of
Their
Krypton
situations
and all
are
that.
entirely different.
So different.
And there are some people, I think, that mistakenly view Scott Summers as Clark Kent. I'm sorry, like that hasn't held water for like 3 decades.
Yeah.
Like the second you gave us freaking Madeline Pryor and his flip-flop there, and then his multiple flip-flops with Emma and Jean. It's like, I'm sorry, this is not Clark
You're not
Kent.
Superman, no.
You are dealing with an entirely different character here, and there's some interesting character development that happens. And this, I will give Mid-K. You know what? I'll even Jed McKay. I won't even call him Mid-K on this issue.
Yeah, no,
Jed
we'll use
McKay,
your real name. Yes.
I won't dead name him, right? Jed McKay actually writes a really not just decent or good, a fantastic exchange here between Cyclops, Scott Summers, and Agent L. Like I was reading it, and I was like I said earlier, this was one of the last 2 books that I had in my stack this week. And I read the book. When I got to this point, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. I was like, whoa, this is good. Like, even before, where was it for me? For me, it was, the moment where he's like, you don't, like, where are the Avengers? That page, I was like, oh, is this good? Is this a good issue? Like, what is happening? Like, I was stunned at what we were getting. It's McKay. You don't expect this any week. He's got like 4 books out. You don't expect this from any of them. And here you go, in X-Men, you get one of the most amazing Scott Summers of all time. So,
it was genuinely impressive. I really liked.
Well, and then here comes.
I like Scott having some balls.
Well, he doesn't. Well, like, so like we talked about this before the show, and we hinted at it a little bit, but like, so we've seen this scene a lot before, like where Scott's like, I'm done. I'm setting the rules. And maybe if not Scott, maybe it's Magneto or Logan or whoever happens to be in charge of whatever team we're looking at in whatever book. We've seen it a lot. And you and I, we do get a little annoyed at how often, especially with the X-Men, Marvel love to retread the past and kind of like, we've been here before, let's go, like move on. This is like the best rendition of that moment, like ever. It's a bummer that it'll probably be retconned really soon, or somebody will do it again and it'll be lost to history. But like, to me, this is like, if we were to do like an Earth's Mightiest Heroes type thing, and we're able to sort of streamline all of the events of the Marvel universe into like one thing, this is where I would put, like, this is where Scott would eventually get to, is like this exact scene. And what I think Jed, this is where I'll give Jed the biggest credit. This is where I think, like, what comes next is where I think he really puts his own stamp on it that we haven't seen before, because as, Scott's like, yeah, we're burning your facilities. You don't want a war with us. Leave us alone. Agent L's going, back off. Like, he pulls his gun. Like, I am going to arrest you. I'll kill you right now if I have to. And so Scott says, like, you don't want to do that, because if you kill me, Washington, D.C. will cease to exist. And Agent L's like, you can't do that. Like, you don't have nuclear weapons. And he's like, I don't.
No, but I've got mutants.
What do you think, like, the Juggernaut would do if I dropped him on you? Or, like, if Zorn took off his helmet? But then this is so good. The best moment. Agent L just keeps, Agent L goes like, if that happens, like, it's open season on mutants. Like, you wouldn't be around. And then, or like you're gone. And Scott's like, maybe. But what happened? Like, could you form a government in that, like, amount of time? How many states would secede? What about all the foreign power? It's really, like, deep thinking.
It's well thought out. But the best moment
is
that
I
mentioned earlier.
Oh, it's
when he was like, oh, and also,
because
if you kill me,
because Agent L is going like, you would do that? You would kill all these people just because of our conflict? And Scott, in that third panel or fourth panel where the coloring goes intense, he's like, you don't, like, this is the game you set up. This is the mutually assured destruction. If you're gonna come at us, gloves are fucking off. And then Scott pulls his gun to his head and he's like, it's like, I want you to know it's not worth it. And then, as Andrew was saying, he just goes,
yes. Like, if you kill me, if I am murdered, my wife will grieve. My wife, the Phoenix. Have fun. Good luck.
And then he's like, she's coming, so I am looking out for you. Like, I am protecting you. Do you think you can handle that? And it's just, we've never heard that. And honestly, this is a point I was going to make when we were talking about Phoenix. Like, in Phoenix and in X-Men, actually, we've seen a decent amount of attention paid to Jean's human side, right? Like, she's talked, like, in Phoenix, she talked to Scott, like, she checks in with him, like, they're in love still. Like,
yeah, it's not like she just went off into the cosmos and was like, all right, I'll see you whenever I get back, Scott. No, like,
we're at, like,
she checks
a
in
strong
with him
point,
regularly.
Yeah. Like, they're at a strong point in their relationship right now. Like, probably, like, status quo strong, like you would imagine them, like, normally in pop culture or whatever. So we see a lot of that development, and then for Scott to be like, if you kill me, she's coming for you. It's just like, yeah she is. And we all know that.
Yeah, good luck trying to deal with my grieving wife over my death.
And then,
it's not going to go well for you.
That's what Scott says. He's like, so yes, I will threaten to destroy every institution of this nation if that's what it takes to get you to listen to me, because I'm looking out for you. And it's just like, all right. And so, and we're actually not done after that. Like that was the climax. And so then we start ending out because we're in the last pages of the issue. Agent L is like, fine, like, I'm out. Like, I'll tell him I'm out of here, but it's not over. And Scott's like, of course not. So then, what's his name? Quentin Quire comes in.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, what's going on? Are we cool? Scott's like, yeah, come on in, whatever. And they're talking or whatever. And then Quentin's like, so is that true? If you die, does the Phoenix, like, come for us? And he's like, I don't know. And he's like, well, then what do we do then? Like, if that happens? And he's like, I don't know. Why do you think I put you on the team? You were a host and, like, an Omega telepath. You're our best chance at fighting it. Good luck. And it's just like, wow. Like, I don't even know what happened in this issue. Scott's, like, playing hell inspired. Like the board came from hell, and it's a 12-dimensional chess game. Like, Scott is just strategy levels that you would have never imagined. I don't know. He's so cool, man. That's why he's my favorite X-Man. He, like, these moments.
He's not my favorite, but these moments
give
him
favorite?
a really strong argument.
That? Oh, well, I mean, Emma,
my favorite X-Men are Emma
Nightcrawler. Yeah, Nightcrawler. That's what it was. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, like, just such a good moment. Just literal, like, a lot of me just reading this issue being like, oh, damn. Like, oh, we're, like, it's happening. And I think I'm really bummed that this is probably a one-offer. Like, when we pick this book up next month, I don't think we're going to get this level of quality.
We're not.
Like,
it's not happening.
We might get it again when they touch back upon this plot point, because I imagine he's going to before his run is over. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like, I have no confidence in the rest of any of this book. But Jed McKay, you get all of my credit for how you handled Scott Summers here.
You get all the credit in the world this week.
Maybe some of Gale rubbed off on you. Maybe she gave you some tips when you were working on Grey Malkin together. I don't know, but you did good work, and I love, like, all I can do is be like, I love this scene. I want to share the scene whenever Cyclops comes up. This is now, for me as a Cyclops fan, in like the top moments, up there with arguably my favorite Scott moment from Astonishing X-Men, when they're fighting the Sentinels and they're attacking the Xavier school, and he's like, I'm done here. Like, Logan, get everybody out of my way. I want these things off my lawn. And he just, like, rips off his visor and levels, like, the entire forest for, like, a mile in front of them, and, like, destroys the Sentinel. Best moment. But this is up there, and yeah, that's all I can really say. Like, otherwise I'm just going to keep going, like, Cyclops is so cool, man. Cyclops is so cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, all we can really say about this issue is, like, Jed McKay actually decided to not be mid.
He showed up.
He showed up for this issue.
I also really love this cover. Like, I know not only did we use it for the thumbnail and stuff, but just as a cover, I'm also like, that's a really good one, Stegman. Like, yeah, I enjoy it.
Well,
I really
Stegman's fantastic.
Of course he is. Like, I have nothing against him. Which is crazy, by the way. Did you notice this wasn't him?
No, it wasn't.
This is Netho again. This is Netho again. Like, Netho was... He's your, like, Bucky to the like, Ryan Stegman's Captain America. And I think, Marvel, don't let him go like you always do. Like, hold on to somebody.
Yeah, seriously.
But
book of the week, I think, for both of us.
Easily book of the week. Not even a comparison. Yeah, guys, obviously we went almost for our full time, even though we didn't mean to. Thank God we initially set that 2-hour limit, because if we didn't, we'd probably be even worse off for time.
Yeah,
but
true.
I know we didn't get to a lot of books this week, but there hasn't really been a lot these last 2 weeks. We really hit the big things. Like there was TMNT and Naruto. It was fine. It was just exposition. There was Absolute Superman, which was cool, but again, just exposition. There was Batgirl. It was cool. Kind of just more exposition. So
yeah, not a lot happened.
There was an Ultimates. Probably, honestly, like, just side note, probably our most disappointing book of the week, because not only is it like boring, it's super boring. Like, again, we like the Ultimates universe. We like what they're doing with all of it. I think we both liked what they did with Luke Cage in like the 2 panels they let him do something. But then aside from that, it's just like, come on already. Like, can we get to something? Like,
yeah.
Andrew and I agreed earlier. It's like at this point, Ultimates is just like a bunch of disconnected stories that probably read better in the trade when you know like the maker's already back and what's coming or whatever. Before we get out of here, I still had this open. I just want to run this by you, buddy, because it is. Oh wait, I had 2 copies of that open. JSA. I really quick. I just want to let you know this book is really bad. It did not get any better.
Still,
if you made the right choice to drop this, because let me run you through this issue. Dr. Midnight got captured in the last issue by the Injustice Society or whatever their name is. This issue is just her escaping and sort of running through the villain's lair. And then this is Obsidian is captured and he's trying to escape. But that's really all that happens. It like Obsidian breaks out, Hakeem Thunder breaks out, and then Dr. Midnight just runs through the base, and at the end she gets stopped by Scandal. Like zero. Like I got through this issue and I just went, I'm so glad I didn't pay for this.
So nothing is happening in this book. Fantastic to know. Frustrating to know, but you know what? That's one less book that I gotta worry about.
So yeah, basically I just wanted to be like, you're gonna be happy about this, but I also want to let everybody know this book is bad. Like it's
not
just
worth your time.
Here's how stupid this writing is. This thing, like right here, they're keeping Obsidian drugged because if they keep him drugged, he can't see the darkness and he can't activate his powers. And so here, the guy comes in, is like, here, I'm going to inject you and knock you out. And over like 10 minutes, because he doesn't wait to see if it knocks him out and he doesn't up the dose or anything, the shadows from the sun that's already hitting the bed get to the corner and Obsidian gets his powers. And I'm like, turn on a light. Like, you're a bad guy. I don't know. Like, this is
amazing.
A Disney cartoon level of like this is a mistake Pete would make so that Mickey could escape and kids could go, yay, he did it. Like, this shouldn't be. I'm not afraid of your supervillains if they can be defeated by the Three Stooges, like, or the paraplegic Three Stooges. He's not even doing anything. Right. He's just standing there. So yeah, I just wanted to run you through that, show you what you're not missing. And that is basically it for.
I feel really bad about dropping that book.
I feel bad about dropping it, but that's what happens when you make really bad books.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, that is, I think, it for this week. I'm glad to be back with you guys, but B, I really want to get Andrew out of here because I know the man, like, I'm tired just thinking about you having to wake up, and I don't even have to do anything tomorrow. So, with that, let's get out of here. Let's let everybody know what's going on. Obviously, starting with you, Andrew. What do you want to talk about while I pull up the graphic that I have?
Final things, guys. I think Yaira 2 is in its last 2 weeks for its pre-orders, so make sure you check that out over on RIPPAVERSE.com under the collections page. Great War of Separation, written by Chuck Dixon and drawn by Jack Herbert, is currently live. It's been live for about a week now. That's doing fantastic as well. This weekend, the Rippaverse team is over at MegaCon, so you can find myself, Eric,
wrong window.
Caro, and Kara all over at our booth. Was it 5125? I think is the booth number.
Oh my God.
Over in Orlando. So sunny Orlando, Florida is going to be welcoming us with hopefully open arms. And I can't wait to see all you guys there. We are a by the fans and for the fans company, and so we are only able to do what we do because of the fans and all the support that you guys give us. So thank you so much for showing up and showing out and showing so much love all the time. Can't wait to be able to shake your guys' hand and chat with you about comics, but chat with you about RIPPAVERSE, hopefully.
So yeah, guys, MegaCon Orlando, if you're there this weekend, booth 5125, that is where you can find the RIPPA booth. Then, of course, I pulled up their panel schedule, which you can probably find more, is that at this is the meet and greet schedule, so this is at the booth, right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, so this is the meet and greet panel, but I know that you guys also have a panel, right? Like
Yes. Yeah, at was it 2:00 or whatever it is on Saturday. We'll have a panel that Eric will be on, and I'll be there. I'll be filming that, and then there will be a meet and greet for the panelists at our booth after the panel wraps up.
Perfect. Yeah. So if you're in Orlando, go hang out with them. Go give love to everybody over at the RIPPAVERSE who is doing great work. Go give Andrew a handshake and a hug for me, since I won't be able to be there in Orlando, but should be an awesome time. I'm excited for you guys. I'm presuming, just because this is what happens at comic conventions, that there's going to be some cool announcements. So RIPPA fans don't want to miss it, or at the very least, log on to Twitter at some point this weekend on Saturday afternoon to see what's dropping. But yeah, go to MegaCon. It should be a really good time. I know that aside from the amazing panelists you see here from our sphere, like Drunk 3PO or the Saskas or Critical Drinker, a lot of folks just in general from our sphere are, whether it's World Class Bullshitters, Bounding, RIPPAVERSE, all of that. There's lots of people running around. It should be a good time. If you're in Florida, there you go. There's one more weekend you don't have to kill yourself, because there is something to do.
Thank you, everybody who has shown support for us. Can't wait to see you guys over in Orlando.
It'll be awesome. Glue yourself to the feed, and like Andrew said, go get Great War of Separation. Here, I'll pull that one up because it's here somewhere. If I could spell right. Yeah, go get Great War of Separation. That's the new one from Chuck and what's his name? Jack
Herbert.
I keep wanting to say Joe, because I was saying that so much.
Chuck does a lot of books with Joe Bennett.
Right, exactly. So that's the one that rolls off my tongue every time.
It's kind of the dynamic duo of the RIPPAVERSE right now.
It really is. But go get your Great War of Separation. Go get your Yaira 2. I should have led with that one, because that one's actually closer to ending. But
that's okay.
Go, click it. What do we got left? We have, there it is. 12 days left for your Yaira 2. Go get your Yaira 2. Go to MegaCon. As for me, you guys know what it is. Go check out boundingintocomics.com. New stories every day. If you want to hang out with me tomorrow, you can do that over on my channel. Probably the best entertainment you're going to get all weekend, considering this guy's going to be gone. So, going to definitely ride that wave. And yeah, come hang out with me if you want. Otherwise, I'm presuming no community night, right?
Yeah, no streams on my platforms this weekend. I'll be in Orlando.
Yeah, didn't think so, but you never know. Maybe your flight home on Sunday was at like
If you're
midnight.
lucky, I'll shoot out a video on my social media, and that's it.
Yeah, so look out for that. That'll be cool. Maybe I don't know. I had jokes, but don't worry about it. I'll tell you afterwards. But yes, so go check out all that stuff this weekend. At this point, I'm just rambling. We're gonna get Andrew out of here. It's snappy time for him. So take it easy, everybody. We will see you same bat time, same bat channel next week for another episode of Foil Variant. Good job, Jed McKay. You deserve it. And I think that's all we've got for you this week.
Later, guys.
Never before have we had greater face a complex, rapidly changing world. Think of it a moment.
It is a world in which supersonic speeds are commonplace. It is a world that has seen the coming of the atomic bomb. It has seen the rise of the total state, the dictator, and the mass man. It is a world of new sensations, new excitements, new distractions.
So much to be learned by so many in so little time.
And I suppose you're here with no agenda, as per usual?
On the contrary, I'm here for comics.
How's your comic book collection, Brody?
Oh, it's going good, but I've been